Down. I know what I'm going to say. Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, August 18th at 6 o'clock, and this is a workshop meeting. All the commissioners are present. Commissioner Samara, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. We have a couple of presentations. Public comments.
All right. Yeah, I think it's picking up now. Okay. Good
State your
evening.
name and your address, please.
My name is Martha Kordiak Mert. My address is 849 Northeast 117th Street. Commissioners, thank you for hearing my comments this evening. I'm here in support of I'm a member of the Arts and Culture Board. I recently joined in early May. And so I'm here just to speak in support of the budget that we've proposed. I wanted to mention a few things that I think are important to know. And I see Barbara's entered. Maybe she's going to make comments as well. But
Talk directly into the microphone. Okay, please.
so for one thing, I joined the board only at the beginning of May. And we quickly in succession had two big events right after that, the Jazz Fest and the Mango Fest. Jazz Fest was the first time this year. Mango Fest is a repeating event. And I was really blown away by the participation in those events and just the positive impact that they have overall on the community. It really brings the community together. It gives people a chance to get to know their neighbors, have a good time, socialize. And I think it just enhances the experience overall for residents. So I think these are really, really important. You know, I think too, having these kinds of events, and especially as we can introduce new things, it gives Biscayne Park some sex appeal. You know, it makes it a really cool place to live as people are looking around and considering where they want to make their homes. So for all those reasons, you know, I think that these events are important, and I hope that we can continue to support them in the budget. I want to quickly mention that we have learned recently too that there are grant funds available from the Miami-Dade Cultural Affairs. Those are matching grants though, so we would need to have two things in order to qualify for them. We would need to have money in the budget, and we would need to have the support of someone to actually submit these grant applications, which could take maybe 30 hours of time. So I did see that in one of the other board's budget proposals, there is a line for a more ongoing presence of professionals to help us with the grant writing process. And I just want to voice my support for that and the importance of, you know, how those grants can really apply to a number of different areas for the village, not just some of the infrastructure that we've been doing. I think at that, I'll stop and I'll turn it over because I think some of our other board members may want to comment. Thank you.
Thank you. This,
Of course, I walked out with, instead of my
name and address. You didn't forget, did you?
How could I after all those years? Okay, hi, Barbara Watts, 720 Northeast 118th Street. I also am a member of the Arts and Culture Board. And I'm getting this right. And I, of course, walked out with.
You can hold that, Barbara. Just take it.
Of
Yeah.
course, I just walked out with, not with my cultural affairs grant files, but my dental file. So anyway, I can't. Some things never change. And I made 6 copies of this for you. I only have one plus my original. All right.
Do we each
and
get a
this is-
copy of your dental files?
No, this is about the Miami-Dade Cultural Affairs Grant, for which I applied for in 2013 when we had our 30th, I think 30th or 35th Biscayne Park anniversary of its founding. 75th. I'm bad with numbers. I had the little brochure, but anyway, it was a great event. We had the Miami-Dade County community band playing songs from the 1930s. Paul George gave a lecture on Biscayne Park in Miami-Dade in 1931, the year of our founding, and we had a little art fair, and it was a delightful evening. For that, we got the budget. The commission at the time budgeted $2,500 for that so that we could make the $25 application to the Community Affairs Grant proposal. This is the only grant that we are eligible for through Miami-Dade Cultural Affairs, and it's the Gateway Grant, but they do not give grants for buying things. It's only for events. All right, and our grant would be of a size. It's a community grant. All right, now the award can be up to $7,000. All right, it doesn't have to be $7,000, but we need matching funds. And so I looked at the budget that you've proposed so far, and you've only got $1,200 matching funds for us for Jazz Fest. We've raised about $2,000, but so far, but some of that money we really do want to spend on Earth Hour. And the artist meet and greet events that we've planned. One thing I'm asking you for is to increase your level of spending for Jazz Fest and or put in a byline in kind donation of say $1,000 or $2,000, because that's why I was going to give you the budget from 2012, because there was in kind for some of Candido did the financials with the help of Chuck Ross, because the foundation was incapable of doing that. Okay, so anyway, I'm thinking if you could give in kind for technical support and for the rental of the rec center, et cetera, that would help us, and we could ask for more money. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Barbara.
Hello, everybody. Nicole Payne, 11251 Northeast 11th Place. I am the chair of the Art Board, and I'm here to talk to you about our arts and culture events. So as you guys all know, we had a fabulous season last year. We had a ton of fun with the Jazz Fest, and we intend to keep the fun going, but we need funds in order to do that. So I just wanted to discuss briefly our list of events and the amounts we've requested, just so that you all are aware of what we put into our budget request and why. So our first event is actually coming up in October. We're going to do it shortly before Halloween on October 20th. And it's an evening with Christina Lane, who is a fabulous author who actually lives in the Village, and she wrote a book called The Woman Behind Alfred Hitchcock. So it's going to be an author meet and greet. We're going to talk about her book. It's going to be a little bit spooky. So that's our first upcoming event, and it's going to be pretty small. But like I said, we wanted to involve someone from the local community and just bring people together for that. Our second event, and this is very exciting, and we sort of want this to be the other semester half to the Jazz Festival as a comparable or similar event, and it's a youth music festival. So we want to do it again, a shorter format, maybe 4 hours, and to invite student bands and student musicians under the age of 18 from all over the area, and invite them to perform and to do a music festival. We want to make it totally geared for kids. We want to advertise it around the neighborhood for all kids to come out and have kid-friendly vendors, ice cream trucks and cotton candy, and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Have activities for kids, and most importantly, have a space where people actually get to listen to young musicians performing. So we think it'll be a really, really exciting event. It'll really do a big draw for kids that are usually in the park on a Saturday afternoon anyways. And so that is the Youth Music Festival. And then in December, we want to do a holiday bike parade. just for the community and just go around on our bikes. I believe that some people did this a few years ago. So we want to bring it back, decorate our bikes, ride around. We would like a police car escort, that sort of thing. If Santa wants to join, that would be great. And then in January, we want to do another Biscayne Park artist meet and greet. This is a similar format to what we are doing in October, a small intimate event with a local Biscayne Park artist. In March, we're going to do Barbara's Fabulous Earth Hour here at the Log Cabin, which was a huge success last year, so we want to do it again. And then April, the Jazz Fest, which we are requesting 5,000 for. And then June, the Mango Fest, which was a smashing success as well. And then we also want to do a few other small events to partner with other boards throughout the year, including a vegan food fest, a holiday arts and craft bazaar, and a flea market / spring swap, where we will partner with the foundation and with other boards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there, Bob Anderson, I see you're on Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to go ahead and say I'm 100% for having a new traffic study. The traffic study that we had before, only a few things was done to help mitigate on traffic. And I'm sorry to say I wish more was done. I really feel we need to have an updated one, and we could be using where we come up with the money to help pay for it. Let's keep the millage at 9.7 like it is now, and use that extra money to go ahead and be paying a major part of this traffic study. If we have a new traffic study, we can go ahead and start looking for other funds or grants to go ahead and help mitigate the traffic. I can tell you, since the last one up until now, where I live, traffic visually has definitely increased. And once these mega structures are finished over North Miami in another year or two, we will definitely see a lot more cut through traffic coming through here. And the density is going to keep increasing in North Miami. And we need to be prepared that we're not going to be just a village of nothing but cut through traffic flowing through us. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. David Raymond.
Good evening, commissioners and residents. David Raymond, 11520 Northeast 9th Avenue. And Madam Mayor, again, Amy and I are sharing a computer, so when I'm done, if she could speak, because she would like to address some things as well. So a couple of things. First of all, Bob just mentioned the millage. I would actually like to see if it's possible to decrease the millage a little bit and give some of the residents a break. I do support the traffic study. I think that it's important to do that. I also think it's important that while that's going on, if there are other things we can do, like put in some more speed bumps. I know that sort of, some people like them, some people don't. I think they help. And when we put the few in that we had, we were told by our previous manager and public works manager that we're doing that as a pilot. I don't know what authority we have to do pilots like that, but whatever that was, or maybe wasn't, it would be great to find out and see if we could put in some more. So while we're studying and examining all this, which sounds like it's going to be some time to really get to an end game with that we do something in the meantime, including, if you would, if you heard the other night when we're having the swale discussion, most of the people were really concerned about safety. And I believe the commission is really concerned about safety. So we haven't had a crime watch meeting since, I don't know when, maybe since Chuck Ross left, maybe one after that. It'd be great to know what the police stats are, how many tickets they're writing, because I can tell you, we walk through here twice a day and there are some crazy drivers. Some of them for here, yes, some of them not. But I don't see anybody being pulled over. When we used to have the motorcycle cop here, there was somebody pulled over on my front lawn at least twice a week. I see nobody being pulled over, at least on the interior of the village. Maybe they're doing it on 6th. So I would really like to stop to see that. I commend the police. We haven't had any break-ins, burglaries. They're doing a fine job there, but I think we need to step up traffic enforcement. On the budget for drains.
Finish your thought.
Yes, ma'am. I got a couple more things to do. Drains, There's $3,200 spent out of 15. I would like to see all the drains cleaned every year. And I know that you're doing Mario's evaluation. As a resident, I would just like to say, I think he's the best manager we've had since we've been here. And I think that it would behoove everybody to give him a raise and keep him here so we don't have to lose him. It would be great to have staff here that we can continue with. And with that, I'll turn it over to Amy, if I may, Madam Mayor, for her 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, thank you. I'm here to talk about replacing the village's 12 wooden benches. After the art board finished placing the mosaic benches, I wanted to continue to beautify our medians. I was no longer on the art board, but I went to the Parks and Parkways meeting when Barbara Cool was chairman. And that day, by chance, Mario and the Public Works manager, Albert, were there. And I got to show them all the pictures of I think we have like 12 wooden benches that have been there since 1995 or 97. John wasn't sure. And so there's cracked bases. The wooden slats are cracked. My son said he like cracked into one when he sat on one. He only weighs, not much. Anyway, they have holes in them. So so Barbara, I think that Mario asked the board chairs to put a wish list in. I don't know if that's how it happened, but Mario, I believe, put in hopefully a $5,000 for new benches, recycled benches for this year, which will only give them, it's like 700 and 900 per bench. I don't know if that's with a base or whatever, but that would give us like at least 5 new benches where the worst ones are. There's a horrible one on 6th, but I think that's through North Miami. But anyway, so I just want to support, I'm hoping that you guys will support replacing our wooden benches. And if you have a chance, go look at them. I've got all the pictures if you want to see them, because it would really help beautify our village. And so I hope that happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Janie Anderson.
Thank you. Janie Anderson, 11th Place and 119th Street. I don't recall ever seeing the advisory boards participate so extensively in providing their wish list, project list, whatever for the budget. I think it's fantastic. I certainly hope this commission will do their due diligence and carefully explore all the ideas they put forward. There are some really good ones. I'm particularly excited, of course, about arts and culture and all the events they've got planned. When you see how successful the first jazz festival was, this community loves events. So I certainly hope you will find a way to fund as many of the various requests that have come from all the boards and foundation as possible. 0.2 of a mil reduction in millage. When you look at that chart and see how little that means to most of us, certainly the aggregate amount of money compiled by staying at 9.7 would fund so many more of those events, would go toward the various things that forget it, ecology board, it's just easier that way. So many of the things that they've put forward, that's really a far better use of our dollars than $25 or $30 and total lowering of taxes. So I hope, again, you'll consider all the ideas that have come to you guys and do your best to try to fund as many as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on Zoom? Please raise your hand to make a motion. Meaning, wave your hand. No?
No, Madam Mayor, I don't see any, although I do have 2 emails for public comment. And I'll read those into the record. I have the first one from Elizabeth Bernard. She says, I support the traffic study if it means we will get speed bumps, because ultimately that is what we need. The second, and I may need some help if somebody knows this person with their last name, Andrew Labauve. I'm not going to even try. I'm going to butcher that. Labauve. Okay. He states, I'm in favor of funding the traffic study.
Okay. Closing public comments. The village manager evaluation. Commissioner Kennedy, do you want to start? Your name is here.
Well, it's just because I submitted mine to put it on the backup so residents could see it. You could start at the other end. But I always start stuff. Let them go. I'll play cleanup for you, Ginny. How's that?
Okay. Commissioner Hammelberg?
This is what our third evaluation of Mario in the last year, and I did not write a formal. I didn't think it was necessary. As David Raymond very clearly stated, he has been on top of things, and although not perfect, who is, he's been very passionate about our little village and very understanding of some of our unusual things that happen around here with some of the neighborhood things. He's been very involved to try and keep people cool, calm, and collected. And he has been wonderful with staffing, and hopefully we'll be starting with completely full staff real soon. I just think that we need to keep him as happy as we can keep him and let him do the work he needs to do for us. And I just don't see any reason why we have to keep evaluating this poor man every few months.
It's in his contract. We only do it once a year. We're required by his contract to do it every year before the end of September.
Yeah, but it's been several
Thomas?
times.
Do you have anything to say about Mario? Okay.
Well, I did use a little bit of a formal format for his evaluation process, because there's really two questions that, I always ask myself. Number one is, are we better off today than we were a year ago? And obviously the answer to that is, in my opinion, is 100% yes. And then the second question that an evaluator has to ask is, we have to evaluate what was said and what was, discussed a year ago. And then we have to evaluate how far we've come with what we said we were going to do. As far as I can see, and the things that we discussed over a year ago, pretty much we've checked off all of those boxes. I did write a formal review for Mario for the record, which he can keep and put in the record. As far as pretty much everything, he either exceeds or meets expectations. So there is I don't have any negative portion in my evaluation in as far as Mario's capacity to be the manager of this building.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Samaria?
Sometimes things happen for a reason, and some strange reason, I left my evaluation that I originally did for tonight in my commission book for the last meeting that we had. And I happen to have a copy of my last evaluation, which is about a year. And it was questions that I wanted answered at that year, what I based my evaluation on. And my question is, did he meet those, my goals that I had last year? And so I'm going to repeat what I repeated a year ago, and then I'll give my answer at the end, because I think he's met all of these. I believe that to do evaluations on employees should be done privately, not in the whole commission. And I have met with the city manager, and I have asked him many questions and to see that he have met my goals that I have established. I meet with him at least once a week, and especially before commission meetings. And anytime, and I think he does this for all the other commissioners, but I can't speak for the other commissioners. Anytime we need to meet with him, he finds time to meet with us. He doesn't have to do that. He can say, I'm busy and so on, even though he does work for the commission, but he also works for the community, but we're not supposed, we don't interfere what he does. What I base my 3 goals on, as I said last year, was my evaluation based upon the goals that the manager sets in the beginning of the year and that the commission sets for him. Did he accomplish them? And if he didn't, why not? What things that that we have asked him to do, that he's gone way out of what he's supposed to do. And I think, as everybody so far has said, well, is that he's accomplished. I think we're better off a year ago than we were a year ago. And I think he's accomplished a lot. And I'll make my evaluation that I did. I did the scoring, even though I don't need to do the scoring, but I wanted to do the scoring to give me an idea on what I want to do. So I'll make that, and city manager, I'll make that for the public record. Again, I apologize for leaving it home, but there's not much that I really need to say. Goals that we have set for him, has he accomplished them? And he has. He's gone way, way beyond it. And I think that he's doing a good job, and I would hate for us to lose this. And Commissioner Kennedy's proposal, I think it was for 6%. I think we should give him that. And I think we should trust him that he's doing what he's supposed to do. I really don't have much to say because he's accomplished everything that I have set for him to do. And I think what's hearing from the residents, that's what the residents are saying. I haven't found too many residents that are saying that he's doing a lousy job. Does he need improvements? Yes, he does. And again, I apologize to the residents and commission because he gave me what his, and I hope that the city manager, with the 3 questions that I asked him, would be able to, I think he has plans on answering it anyway, but I would love to hear what he has to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennedy?
Dan, just to be clear, I didn't recommend that we give him a 6% raise. I think what I said at the first budget workshop was that the cost of living adjustment was included for all employees but Mario, and I pointed out that we would want to add that in for budgeting purposes. We'll discuss his compensation here in a few minutes. Just to be clear on that. So I used, guys, I used the same form that we had agreed to sign kind of last year informally, and I used that again. And my evaluation is posted online as a backup if anybody wants to read it. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you now. It's
Thank
rather
you.
extensive. You're welcome, Ginny. But it's online, Ginny. If you do want to read it, it's there. But I'll give you a quick overview. But I ranked him in the same areas that we used on the form last year, ranked him from 1 to 5. And just from a scoring perspective, I gave him a 3.88 overall. It will mean more when you read the form, down very insignificantly over last year, but a very solid score. So then I wrote a summary that you can read. And again, I'm not going to recap the whole thing, but I'll run through it quickly. So I identified Mario's strengths, and they're the same strengths that he brought to the job and that I feel he continues to demonstrate very well. And these are I do a lot of hiring and training and managing of staff at work. And these are the intangibles that you can't train people. You can train people to do lots of things, but you can't train work ethic into someone. You cannot train a sense of ownership over a position that you need someone to bring to their job, and you can't make them care. You can't train someone to care. Either they're a caring person or they're not. Mario brought all of these things. He continues to demonstrate them, and I find those things to be extremely valuable to the village and critical in his and our mutual success. I want to mention another thing that he does, I think, exceptionally well. It's budgeting for this village. I sat through some budgeting seasons here in the past when I moved here before I was a commissioner, and I found them to be very confusing and sloppy and not resident friendly. And Mario came and changed that significantly last year, less significantly this year because he did such a good job of improving it last year. But this year's budget is even better. Not necessarily the numbers that are in the budget, but the way that it's presented, the way that it makes sense, the way it's responsive to what we're asking him to do. It's very well organized, accessible, and I find Mario to be open to ideas and suggestions in public and private meetings all the time. He takes all of his fiscal responsibilities very seriously. Now, in terms of areas for improvement, I have a couple of things that I'll summarize here. It's more detailed in my evaluation. Communications continues to be, in my opinion, a weak spot here in the village. We hired a communications firm that I don't feel is delivering what I thought we might get out of them. I wasn't supportive of doing it in the first place, just in all transparency. But we continue to have communication problems in the village. Residents, not internal, I should specify. I communicate very well with Mario, so I never have to wonder what's going on. He's great with me as a commissioner. But in terms of the village as a government communicating to its residents, I think we're still very weak there. And I think it shows in people's confusion about things and their lack of engagement in things. and not showing up for things and not being just engaged overall. So I think that this is a very critical area, Mario, that you could improve in for the village is communications. There's one department that I'm not completely satisfied. I don't think, and I'll put it this way. I don't think we're getting our money's worth from the code department, which is part of the greater police department, which is the biggest part of our budget altogether. There are challenges in code, staffing problems, the way they function, their interaction with our code compliance board. I don't feel like they're necessarily focused on the right things. I see some really kind of serious and some life safety things that go on in this village concerning construction sites and some other things that are more critical than dirty roofs and things. And I think code is a problem. So if there's a department that Mario could work on in the village, I think it would be code. Regarding contract negotiations and contract management, I discussed this in his second evaluation last year, and it's come up sometimes when we've talked about some contracts. I would like to, I'd like to see a little tighter control over how the contracts are managed. The contracts that we get, I don't have a problem with. It's the management and interpretation of the contract. There's some other things I'm not going to discuss here, but you can read about them. Some other things I would like to see. But Mario is an asset to Biscayne Park. I mean, it sounds like we all very much agree on that. But, and don't anyone take this to be anything negative at all. This is just kind of a reality of like a boss looking at an employee, right? He's an enormous asset to this village, but he's also a highly visible and upwardly mobile government administrator in Miami-Dade County. He's a catch. And we got him, and we're the ones that gave him his first big title. But I highly doubt that Biscayne Park is going to be the last stop in Mario's career. So I just want to make sure that we're planning for the day that he's no longer leading this community, that the commission is, whatever commission is in place. But it's also a good executive's job to make sure that the day he does leave, that he's handing it over, not just in the best shape, but handing over the directions to run the machinery of it. So I'm hoping that behind the scenes, there's work being done to make, because I know you didn't, Mario, inherit you kind of inherit nothing. You got nothing. So you understand, you appreciate the not getting the directions to how the machine operates. So I'd like to make sure that you're prioritizing that as well. So the day that you're not here, and I know you wouldn't want to hand it over to someone not in good shape and not ready for someone to take the reins and run and make it their own. But I hope that you're working on that, and there could be some procedures and things in place to make sure that we're preparing for the day that Mario's not with us. Not with us, but not employed here at the village, I should say. God. So here's my summary. It's very short. Of the manager, I'm going to kind of echo some of what Art said. Of the managers who have run this village since I moved here and the managers with whom I've worked as a commissioner, Mario Diaz stands alone as a solid performer. In my experience with him directly, he cares, he works hard, he's enthusiastic, he asks good questions, and he's open to ideas, and he accepts criticism. He rolls with the punches. He understands but does not overstep his role as village manager. Mario's not perfect, and he has some work to do, certainly, as do we all, but Biscayne Park is a far more secure municipality since Mario's arrival when measured by finances and other significant accomplishments. I enthusiastically endorse his continued employment here at the village, and I look forward to your future development, Mario, and the continued advancements of our, what I like to call, oasis in the heart of Miami. Thanks, Mario.
Thank you. Okay, my evaluation. I'm very involved with the League of Cities and the mayors that are all in the local areas. And we do discuss managers, and he rates right up there, pretty high. And it's important that we keep him happy. He's doing a good job. And I think we should continue with you. Okay, thank you. Okay. Is there any discussion on the commission for that?
Yeah, well, we need to discuss if we're going to give him a raise or do something, we need to discuss.
I thought that's across the board.
Well, we have to, we budget for it. Budgeting is one thing, but we have to, as a commission, grant him. So I would like to open up a conversation about looking at Mario's compensation package. If we budget a cost of living that we're doing for all employees across the board, except for the police department, who are handled outside of our budget process separately because they're a union, it would be, we're giving every other employee 6%. So if we want to start there and discuss that, I guess we should probably discuss, does everyone agree that we should budget for Mario for a 6% increase? And then we can talk about how much of that we really want to give to him.
Sorry, I just want to add one thing. To run this village, the person that runs this village is the city manager. And that's the person that should be paid the highest money because he does take responsibility of the whole village. So I don't have a problem with giving a raise and even, I really would like to give him more than 6% because I think he's doing a
Let's not
good
get
enough.
carried away.
Now, the question is, and I agree with Commissioner Kennedy. I know he wasn't hinting that the city manager was going to lead today, but I do agree with you. We need to keep him if he's doing a good job. And you know, we need to pay him what he deserves to be paid. He is the one that runs the city.
Vice Mayor, I thank you for the sentiment. Before the conversation evolves, I want to thank everybody on the commission. It is, and the community, it is truly an honor to help lead this, this village on the administrative side, to implement your will as a board. And it's truly an honor to work with the staff that I have. I think rolling with the punches is a good way to do it, to say it, because every day there's different challenges that we face that we have no expectation of addressing that day. And so to have the chief by my side, to have Albert, Issa, to have Shantae, who has been an amazing star for us since day one. I can't do half the things that I'm able to look at and try to accomplish without their assistance. And then to our regular consultants that are helping us, Valerie and Paul, Ed, although he's not on, Ronnie's on, I see. You know, thank you so much for the assistance from guidance to just provoking different thoughts and ways to tackle things. Everybody on the team has really been an asset. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you to everybody. Although I appreciate the sentiment, Vice Mayor, I would not feel comfortable receiving anything more than what my team would receive. And if we're going to budget for 6%, then I would not accept anything above a 6% if that's what the commission wishes to do.
Let's cut to the
We give
chase
you
here, folks. 'cause we have a
6%.
big
If,
night.
if, that's right. I said if that's what you want.
What, is everybody good with 6%?
What does 6% equate to, Mac?
He's
$6,000.
$6,000. We raised him up to $100,000. But if I'm correct, it comes into play on his anniversary date. Is that correct? Or is it on our fiscal year?
It would be with regards to the fiscal year.
I thought last year we made it your anniversary date.
Right, as a separate, when you all were discussing it, we had, the first review was at the 3-year mark. Then during the budget season, we had another one, but we said, you haven't hit that year yet. We didn't feel comfortable.
Okay,
And so the commission pushed that
Got
to December.
but it should be on a fiscal year.
Right, I
You
typically.
don't want
do
more
that
than
on-
6%, but you're going to squeeze 3 more months out of us. I'm teasing.
It could be held until December if the commission.
No,
likes.
no. I'm teasing. I just want to make sure we're doing it correctly, the way we should. So, look, I'm happy just saying, let's give the man 6%.
Just check with everybody.
One of the things I do want to add, because I did have this discussion with the city manager, and we already know that he did accept what he was saying now he was going to say publicly, but I wanted it to be. We paid for his insurance. And if, oh, my handwriting's so bad.
Portion. Correct.
that we
Portion
paid.
of it.
Please, city
Portion.
manager, be sure we know what we talked about. In reference to his insurance, I want us to continue. I think we paid what, 50% or whatever is, explain that
Correct.
much better what we did. What exactly we paying on your
I
insurance?
think we agreed to keep that going already. So
Yeah,
We did
Absolutely.
it.
part
This,
of-
this salary increase would be, or whatever, whatever form it comes in is outside of that.
Yes,
So I agree with the 6% because he
Okay.
already had this.
Hamelberg?
I am total agreement.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Okay, I want to add something to that because I agree, but I talked to Mario and yesterday and we talked about how this might come down today, you know, and I said, if we do decide to give you a salary increase, is a salary increase, if we're going to spend $6,000, we can spend $6,000 different ways. You know, it could be salary, it could be other benefits. What might make more sense? So Mario, is there a way that if we're going to budget $6,000 as an increase for you, is there a way that makes more sense for you, for us spending the same amount of money, for us to spend it differently than a salary increase?
My preference, instead of a salary increase, which also carries for FRS implications and FICA and Medicare implications as well, I would actually prefer that we just move that credit towards the health insurance. There's
Is there any downside to the village for that at all? Paul's on here. I know it actually saves us some
There's
money.
actually an upside to the
Right,
village because
right.
we save on the federal stuff as well. And I don't think there's any downside.
But in terms of our insurance or anything, is there any, maybe we should just ask the question, Paul, is there any downside to us doing it that way?
No, it's very generous of Mario to offer that.
Okay, so I would make a motion that we,
There's no motion,
Oh,
sir.
okay.
It's just a workshop. It's not an official meeting. So we would just appropriately budget that for the September budget meeting. So it will be reflected in those documents.
So, okay, so
we don't have to
No.
do any kind of a resolution or
No,
any kind of
if-
thing
it
to give
sounds
you a
like
raise.
what you're saying is the 6,000 will go towards your insurance.
Correct.
Right.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, there, if that's the consensus, then we will just.
I'm very happy with that if Mario's happy with it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
And thank you to everyone for the
Nicely
kind
done,
words.
Mario.
Support.
Okay, we're going to do the second budget workshop presentation.
Okay.
Mario?
Before we start, can I ask a question? Because I didn't get to ask them a question, and I have a question for the board. Nicole, you said that you wanted to get 5,000 for the Jazz Fest, right? And I think Barbara said you already have 2,000. Is that what I heard? Oh, it's just general, okay. And I think so, and we have what budgeted 1,200. Obviously, you guys are working with the BP Foundation, I'm assuming, right? To potentially have them help you guys generate some revenue for that, right? Are you in contact? Are you talking to them about it and whatnot? Okay. Oh, wow, okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So basically, the $2,000 that you have is really going to be used for everything. That it's kind of. Gotcha. Okay. And so the 5,000 is specifically just for the Jazz Fest. Okay. So yeah, it's we're way off there.
I have a related question, if I might, Art. I don't know how this works. Is a board allowed to hold money like that?
They're not holding money. The foundation is. and
So the foundation has all the
earmarked.
money in its coffers. Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, they break it up for,
Okay, so you
Okay.
give all the money,
And
you donate all the money
we'll-
to the foundation and they kind of hold it in your market for you.
We will get to part where we go not only through the staff and the commission recommendations, but also all the board recommendations.
Okay,
You can
so
talk
we
about
won't-
that all line item.
have my opinion on that yet.
I think it might be prudent for me to present all of the information and the staff changes because there are differences between the first workshop and the second. And then we can kind of start going through and we can take it whether we want to go commission recommendations first or board. That's totally whatever the commission would prefer to do. But I think it'd be better because it puts a little bit more into perspective once the presentations are done.
Okay.
Um,
Do you want to lead on the?
Yeah, I'll just carry over. Thank you, Mayor. I'm actually going to ask Paul to present. There was a chart that was created with several different facts put together. And I'm going to ask Paul to kind of explain it so that we can kind of run through. It is being shared right now. So if you look at the screen behind you, and I believe it should be part of your packet, if I'm not mistaken. Paul, take it away.
Yep. Thank you. Mac had asked, or Commissioner Kennedy, sorry, hope you don't mind me calling you Mac, had asked for some analysis of the village and also the concept of the ad valorem process, which ad valorem means the added value or the appraised value of a property. And they are adjusted quite a bit so that when you look at the impact across the community, it's actually, and somebody already mentioned it earlier in tonight's meeting, that it is a very nominal amount. I would like to mention a couple highlights, and Commissioner Kennedy can certainly chime in in this moment, because it's really an analysis that he asked for. But as a finance director, what I saw right away was what you're supposed to see, which is that the ad valorem process, the truthed millage, and the various homestead and benefits that are provided to people are applied very evenly and very smoothly throughout the community in the 1,094 units. And as a result, it can tell you a lot about yourselves very quickly, that the majority of your properties are homesteaded, and a majority of the residents are assessed below the $300,000 value level. In fact, over 85% of the community is measured or charged based on that maximum property value. And we all know that many properties have sold or are worth much more than that in today's market, and that makes up sort of the second hump of a camel in the curve of your community. So you have a big concentration at the lower number, and a sizable concentration creeping up, but a very small number above 300,000. So I can't control the chart from here, but
just let me know what you want to do. Or
yeah, scroll down to the second page. It doesn't all fit on one, because I think this is kind of the starting point. The two colored columns, the 9.5 millage and the 9.7 are highlighted there. And you can envision the column on the left being $50,000 incremental value changes, starting at zero and going all the way up to about 500,000, and then they go up in $100,000 increments, because there was only 15 or 16 of those. So the majority of your community is paying between $1,000 and $3,000 a year for your taxes, and inside that, the difference between a 9.5 and a 9.7, I think, is what Commissioner Kennedy was trying to show, how that spreads across all your community. And when you spread it all the way out, you can really see that it's a very small amount of money between the two. In your world, you've always been talking about tenths of millage points in terms of budgeting. Some communities can do 2 or 3 millage point shifts, and that's where it's going to be more meaningful impact. And so, not that it isn't meaningful and it's very kind of you to worry about $10 per property difference or $20 types of difference, but as a finance director, it's fairly nominal, and you guys often calculate that 0.1%, which is on the top page, which is $29,000. So that's kind of the overview of how I see this chart. It shows that it's a very small adjustment either way, and the majority of the people who pay under $300,000 would have a very nominal impact. Commissioner Kennedy, did you have something you specifically wanted to highlight? Because I noted you took the same basic math and you put some interesting perspective on it, which I thought you could share.
Yeah, Mario, would you mind if I shared my version of this? Because I'd like to be able to sort of move back and forth, and I have it locked in some places to point out some things.
Sure, just give me one moment.
what I'm going to pull up, guys, is exactly what they were just showing you. I just have mine locked in certain places so I can manipulate it and point out some things to you as we go. It makes it easier than going on multiple pages.
I did want to point out that the accountants of the world are screaming that you changed the colors to green and red, and
Sorry about that. Just trying to
it's
pop
okay.
Okay, so guys, here's the genesis of this. Let me start there. So we talk about millage and you know, we talk about changing our millage rate by the 10th of a millage, 0.1. And we last year, 2 years ago, we were at 9.7. We dropped it down to 9.5. This year, Mario started at, we agreed to keep, put it back up to 9.7 for budgeting purposes only, but Mario's presenting a budget to us that's actually based on 9.5. And so as I'm thinking about this, and obviously we all would like to decrease taxes as much as possible and get the most done for the community at the same time as we can. Mario did a really nice job on his first budget presentation, and I think he's going to show it again, for residents to see where their money actually goes. So residents know they write a check for a certain amount of money, one way or the other, they pay their taxes. And they think it all comes here. Oh my God, I pay such crazy taxes in Biscayne Park. But Mario has done a really nice job showing us for the past couple of years that the majority of the money actually does not come to Biscayne Park. We get 38%, Paul, comes to Biscayne Park, something like that.
Okay.
About
Sounds good.
40%. Yeah. So the majority goes to the county, whether it's the county or the school board. So when we talk millage points, I know it sounds really good to say we lowered from 9.7 to 9.5 and people would like us to lower it more. But we then have to have a conversation about what's the financial impact to the village when we do that. And we need to get the job done. We have certain fixed costs that we can't adjust. And then we have people asking for stuff. We have a board here asking us for money, people asking for traffic studies, people asking for median improvements, whatever. And there's only so many pennies in a dollar, right? So it's not as, it doesn't mean anything when we talk a 10th of a millage to a resident. They don't know what it means. So I said, I want to see what this looks like in dollars. So last year, Mario and Paul included in their presentation for me the average impact for an average homesteaded house and This year I said, let's take that one step further. Here's what I want to see, because I couldn't see it. I want to see for each taxable value, and first of all, everyone keep in mind that taxable value and the real estate market value are two completely different animals altogether, right? So look on your trim notice, go online and pull it up and you can see the taxable value of your home, the amount on which they tax you. And ours is just, 38% of that number. I want to see how many people are at each taxable value range and what the actual dollar impact to those people are when we talk about increasing or decreasing 0.1. That's really all this chart is. So I know it looks kind of overwhelming because there's so many numbers, and this is why I wanted to control the screen, because Paul put together for us, it shows for each taxable value. I'm going to pull $200,000 right there. I highlighted that row. For a home that has a taxable value of $200,000, no matter how they get there, whatever, homesteads and things, taxable value of $200,000, you can see the actual portion that goes to Biscayne Park. If we were to have our millage rate be 8.0, they would be paying $1,600 to Biscayne Park. And then it goes up 8.1, 8.2, 8.3. Now, we highlighted 8.3 because that's the rollback rate that we set, and that's important because this is the amount, this would be the millage rate. If we set it at 8.3, it would bring in the exact same amount of money that last year brought in at 9.5. So that's a very important number, meaning if we're going to bring in the same amount of revenue, we can't go lower than 8.2914, 8.3. Question, Art.
So this is the impact for just Biscayne Park taxes.
That's correct. Just Biscayne Park. That's correct.
Which is a much bigger portion.
Correct. We're like 38% of the total. But yes, that's a good question. All you're seeing is the portion that comes to Biscayne Park. So for this home valued at $200,000, we have 134 properties in that range. So yeah. Yeah. See, I know, Jenny. See, when I got this, I kind of suspected it would be skewed. I want to see what it looks like. And Paul and Mario sent it to me and I'm like, is there a mistake? Is there a formula error? So they went back in and added these numbers for me. At the $200,000 range, we have 134 homes. That represents 12.2% of our total homes. At the 8.2 range, they'd be paying $1,640. You can see that annually, for every 0.1 millage rate that we change up or down, Art, for that home, it's a difference of $20 for the year.
Biscayne Park.
For Biscayne Park, that's what comes to us. And when we adjust our millage rate, it doesn't change the taxes that they're paying for the county. It doesn't adjust anything anywhere except in our little portion of their tax bill. But when we set a millage rate, Paul, did I say that properly?
Perfectly. You're hired.
Right. So when we change our millage rate, we're only changing that portion of their tax bill that comes to Biscayne Park, nothing else. So
Okay, but the
Yeah.
assessed valuation is much lower than.
it's much lower than the market value. That's correct, Jim.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So at $200,000, we have 134 homes. For every 0.1 change that we make, it makes a $20 difference. If we increase it, if we went from 9.7 to 9.8, their tax bill to Biscayne Park would increase by $20, and that averages $1.67 a month. That's what this column is here. So monthly, their tax bill would go up $1.67. That, okay, now you're going to see, before I go down, let me show you something here. What I highlighted in red, Paul doesn't like the color red. What I highlighted in red are all the homes that have a taxable value of under $200,000. And this is a really important thing. 48% of property owners fall in that range. We have 48% of property owners for whom whatever change we make in our millage rate, it only changes their taxes $1.25 a month. That's why we're so broke. To your concern about our revenue. That's why, because we have so many people down at that lower range. They've lived here a long time. They bought really inexpensively. They have the, what's it called, Judy, the Save Our Homes cap thing. They have multiple homesteads. They have homestead, and that's not ever going to change. We're not going to change those people very much at all. They're always going to be kind of set like that. But check this out. We have 51 properties that are valued under $50,000 taxable value.
Really?
Yeah. And they pay, yeah, Paul got these numbers for me. And any change that we make will change their tax bill less than 42 cents a month.
Yep. And just
From the
a
county.
little detail, not all of those are single family homes. In fact, most of them are very small parcels because of some platting issues in your community, but
Right.
nonetheless.
But there's still
They pay the
51
bill.
of them, and that's what they're paying. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's what I wanted you guys to see is the actual dollar impact. So I know we talk 0.1 millage and we all want to bring it down, obviously, but I wanted to see the impact. Now, Art, I'm going to scroll up here. You wanted me to scroll up?
And Commissioner Gonzalez, all the data is received from Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser.
Yeah, I manipulated the data. I mean, I didn't manipulate it, change it. Paul provided the data in a basic spreadsheet, and then I went and dressed it up and added some other information. This is really interesting. So people think, oh my God, the prices are going up, your crazy taxes. Check this out. In green, properties valued over $600,000 taxable value, we only have 16 of them. So you hear about all these houses selling for all these crazy amounts. We only have 16 that have a taxable value of $600,000 or more. And even for we only have one at the highest level, $1 million. It's the Airbnb on 117th Street, our original McMansion. That's the only property in Biscayne Park that has a taxable value of more than $1 million. And it's just over $1 million, right? It's the only one. And for every millage difference, that every 0.1 millage change that we make, that property is impacted $100 a year. So the most expensive property in this village, if we adjust 0.1 up or down, it's only a $100 difference, $8.33 a month. The point I'm making here is that when we discuss the topic of the millage rate, we need to keep the dollars in mind as well, because we have a lot of people for whom any change that we make is very minor. Judy, the other night you were talking about, we have to look, we all agreed, we need to look at our, what are they called? The schedule of permit fees and how we're undercharging and Some of those things would be much more significant than a 0.1 millage change. They pull $125 permit, that's more than a millage change.
And
So-
for every 0.1 is what, 28,000?
Yeah, now I'll scroll down here and show you that art. Now, here's what it means to the village. Go down here where it says BP revenue impact. For every 0.1 change, it's a $29,422 difference for us. So even, so 0.1 is not a lot of money for us in the grant. Let's just call it $30,000. Yeah, it's only $30,000 to us, but $30,000 in our budget. Paul, what's $30,000 of our annual budget? Is it 1% or 1/10%? It's 1%.
It's a 1/10%.
1/10%.
You're a little over 3 million.
We're at 3 million. Okay. So that's my point, guys. We adjust 0.1 up or down. For us, it's, let's call it $30,000 for us to do something within the budget. Either we lose it or we gain it. For homeowners, you can see how it really impacts. If we were to decide to do something with our budget, right now we're budgeting at 9.5. We set the rate at 9.7. So we could go up, we could go down as far as we want to. We need to keep this in mind. This is the critical thing. And if we do decide to do something, we all need to be able to explain it to our constituents who are going to ask us, why did you do that? This is a really eye-opening thing. I showed it to some residents. I talked to one resident who's been here forever, and she said, Mac, you could double my taxes and it wouldn't make a difference to me. She says, I don't pay anything to live here. I've lived here forever and I'm paying nothing. She's like, you're paying my way. And I'm like, yeah, trust me, I know. So now if we scroll over here, Judy, it looks like you have a question. Do you want to ask a question first? Okay.
I'm 100% in agreement.
So if you scroll over
I've already
here,
known some of these numbers, but I didn't realize how little it was for the.
well,
time.
because the numbers have never been, Paul put these numbers in front of us for the first time like this.
We raised this to 9.9, where.
can't.
Well, we can't.
I'm just using it as an
By
example.
law.
Yeah.
No, I'm just using an example.
Yeah.
Raising it to 9.9, the residents are not going to pay that much, according to, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, you can look at the chart and you could see exactly at each. So each of us can look on the chart. It's the first thing I looked at. What's it really mean to me? So really to me, I'm in the range where it would mean $45 a year. If we go up 0.1 or go down, if we go down, drop it 0.1, I'm saving $45 a year. If we go up 0.1, I'm paying $45 more for the year.
One
and if
dinner out at Sagra.
It's one, not even, because I have 2 glasses of wine when I go there. But sorry,
For a
that's
year.
almost a tank of gas. It's almost a tank of gas. But look, if you asked me if I were not sitting up here and I was in the audience, you said, Mac, will you pay $45 more a year so the Arts and Culture Board can continue to bring more of these fabulous events and we can start funding solar panels on village buildings? I would say $45. Yes, I'll skip a dinner out and let this village get better. So scroll over to the right and you'll see we're budgeting at 9.5. This column right here, this is the budget that Mario presented to us, is 9.5. The maximum we can go is 9.7. And right there, you can see, if I scroll and lock it like that, now you can see for a property that has the range that has the most number of people in it is the $50,000 to $100,000 range. $50,000, we have 167 people. For them, it's $500. Now, to be completely transparent, because I don't want anyone to say I was like deceiving or anything here, these are ranges. So it's not a locked amount. So if this is at this row right here, that's $150,000, but then there's a jump of $50,000 to here. So people fall in this range, right? So they're going to fall somewhere in that range. So just to be completely clear, no, you can't. Not unless we did it, not unless, Paul, could you provide us a spreadsheet that had every dollar value to the dollar instead of $50,000 ranges? It was a joke. Probably
That would
could.
be way too
He's
much.
probably 2
I have
clicks
it,
and it
yeah,
would be
I
here.
have it.
He's having a
You have
heart
it?
attack over that.
Okay,
I
so guys,
do.
let me just wrap this up, that I'm not suggesting anything, but we're going to have a conversation here about our revenue and about our expenses. And this is the revenue side of the equation. And I just want to make sure that we're looking eyes wide open and that we're seeing the dollar impact, not some arbitrary 0.1 of a millage that no one understands, that I pretty much understood. But until I saw this chart, it didn't make exact perfect sense to me either. But now I found this thing to be very eye-opening. And I should have started by saying, Paul, thank you very much. Mario, thank you for agreeing to let me have this. And Paul, thank you for getting all this information together, because this is very eye-opening to me, extremely eye-opening. The number of people that we have with a taxable value of below $200,000, it's really the vast majority of this village's revenue comes from that number of houses. Now, not the dollars come from what we'll call the middle class. It's the people in this range. Oops. It's the people in this range that are kind of carrying the weight, right, Paul? Because we don't have many people. We don't have a lot of people up here in this green range. We only have 16 of them. So they're paying more, but we only have 16 of them.
But I believe the county is dropping. Didn't I hear Daniela Levine was dropping the county's rate?
Yeah.
That would affect us positively.
That would not affect us. It would affect homeowners, not us.
It would affect the homeowners.
Their total bill.
Their total bill, because what, 40% of it, 50% of it goes to the county?
Like, yeah, more, well, the county, between the county and the school board, it's like 58% or something. Yeah.
Right. So that portion would be going down.
Yeah.
That would even actually counterbalance
Well,
if we go up a little.
one more analytic that sort of fits into this for the commission's sake is
I'm good, thank you.
when you are looking at a 14, almost 15% increase in revenue, don't forget that a majority of the homes were only going up 3% because of the cap on the Save Our Homes ordinance. And so everyone else is only incrementing 3%. So to get to 14%, that's where the big jumps come from. And that means that that means a new home sale, meaning a home was transferred in ownership and there wasn't a lot of portability applied to it. And that's where your new revenue comes from.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if portability is applied, then we kind of eat
Exactly.
it.
Then it keeps the taxable value down low. And then that's another person who's not paying very much. So all of this, again, is just meant to be eye-opening to us as we have this conversation. I wanted us to have dollar signs in front of us. So does anyone have any questions for me or Paul? Not that I'm the expert here, but I did dress this up and presented it for a reason. So does anybody have any questions before we continue?
I think you did a fabulous job of it.
Thank you, Judy. I
think
appreciate that.
It's because I know how it affects me. A couple of years ago, they dropped our millage rate. I got upset about it because I felt like the village needed to move ahead on things. And I turned around and donated that money back into the village. It was $124. I gave him double that just to make up for it because I thought it was the right thing to do. So I like seeing the numbers. My concern was the people who had recently purchased and how it was going to hurt them. And in actuality, it doesn't appear to be hurting most of them tremendously. And
Well, if they're,
that makes me feel better.
if they're homesteaded and they use their portability when they came in, it's either
But a lot of people who are
Moving
young
from out of state.
couples who didn't own anything before
or moved from out of state.
or moved from out of state, they have got no portability. So they're paying, but still, it's not like it's going to move their Biscayne Park part by thousands. So that's good to see. Thank you very much.
You're
Matt.
welcome. Anybody else have any questions, Ginny,
No, but I did look up the assessed valuation.
of your home?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
saw how little you're,
398, 400.
Yeah.
Right.
so how much, a 0.1 millage, what does that change your dollar amount?
You know,
$25, I think, is that in that range? Yeah.
it really doesn't matter, but one of the things that people, especially people who've been here a long time, have constantly said, we should lower taxes, we should lower taxes.
But now you
And-
see what
and-
it really means.
But they have the idea, if we go up, it's going to be, even though it doesn't affect us, but then it doesn't affect you and I anyway. You know, it's not a big deal, but some people, it's the idea. of
Yeah.
those-
Well, because they don't know, and they don't know. So the idea of raising taxes, lowering taxes, it's all theoretical until you put a dollar sign in front of a number. And that's exactly what this chart was meant to do. And I really did it for my own information because I thought I need to understand really the impact. And I saw it. And I said, Mario, we need to share this with everybody because it's even more significant than I thought.
And this village has been living on a shoestring budget for years and years and years and years. And I've heard we can't afford, we can't do, we can't afford, we can't do. And it really enriches the community if we can throw solar panels on the rec center, if we can put money into activities for our residents, like the activities that the Arts Board is doing. And people love those things.
And it becomes a way to market the village as well when people are looking to buy here, especially if we make sure everyone's aware when there's information available on our website, a prospective buyer is looking at the village website. I don't know Biscayne Park. Let me look at their website. Oh, wow. Look at the calendar of activities they have. Look at all the things. We have all these families moving here. Look what they have for my kids. They have a jazz festival in Biscayne Park. Oh my God. I mean, it just increases the value of the community as a whole and makes it justifies the high numbers. And we want those new people, not that we want anyone to leave, but anytime a new person comes in, there's a much greater opportunity for us to make more revenue off of them. Look, we're running a business, right? So, and we need money. So the new owners, they pay more to live here. And if they're moving from out of state, they're paying the most. The interesting thing, I was looking at addresses on the list because Paul gave me the list that showed every address. The most expensive one is the Airbnb, the one that pays the most. But two down, number 3 on the list is a retired couple that moved here from out of state. I know them. And I was like, oh, wow, look what they're paying compared to everybody else. And they moved here last year from out of state. I was like, bam.
Yeah, but you're not taking into account people that own multiple homes, Mr. Kennedy.
I'm sorry?
You're not taking into account people that own multiple homes, Mr. Kennedy.
In what way?
They're not, they
Own
don't have.
more than one
homestead.
home in Biscayne Park.
They don't get to homestead it, or
Oh,
if you
well.
have a rental property.
Well, then you mean they have a rental property? Yeah, well, then they're renting it out, making money off of it. The Airbnb is making money off. Then it's a business and they have to account for their expenses in their business. Well, your case is different.
Wow.
Nice then.
So to kind of help and explain where the budget is, this year, the commission last year was pretty vocal that they wanted to reduce the millage down from 9.7, and they settled. You all settled at 9.5, and so I budgeted the operations based on a 9.5 millage, strictly to keep the same intent that the commission had last year and give you an opportunity to decide whether you wanted to go up or down from there. I didn't want to presume that I knew the commission's intention this year of which way they wanted to go. Everybody has different priorities. So from an administrative, I just want to say, okay, if we keep the millage flat, what does that mean with all the increase in expenses we've had? And so that's why I was presented. And so one of the things that I want to, if I can get this to work. Oh, okay, there we go. So again, to summarize what we talked a little bit about last year and even just now, where the tax dollars go when you pay your property taxes. So for every $100 that you pay in property taxes, Miami-Dade County will receive $31.29. The school board will receive $27.84, Biscayne Park 37 and 73 cents, and then regional taxes is another $3.14, and that's South Florida Water District, other type of, the Children's Trust, and all these other type of things that kind of just fall into it. So Biscayne Park only receives about 38% of the total of what you pay. Now, for every $100 that is paid to Biscayne Park, how is that broken up among our departments? And so 41% goes towards the police department. General administration is 29% basically. Public works is $16 or 16%. We then go into the Parks and Recreation Department, which is about 8%. Then 5 goes to the code department. And then 1% goes to transfers out, at least within this budget, 56 cents per $100. And then 1% goes towards the commission. The differences, I'm sorry?
For our big salaries.
Well, for all expenditures within the department. So the budget comparison between fiscal year 22 and 23, I wanted to be able to show. So from a personnel standpoint, we're seeing a 10.47% increase. Operating is increasing about 4.5%, and then capital we're showing 600%. Again, we're starting to allocate different funds, and we're, as the years go by, we're trying to allocate funds where they should be. To make things easier, we had a lot of the funds just within an individual department. And so one of the things that I'm trying to illustrate so that you all can see and the community can see, we have a fund called Capital Projects Fund. Well, all of those big projects, infrastructure projects and things like that are trying to start gearing towards more that so that you can see where those type of dollars are actually spent as opposed to just operating costs. And so there's and overall there's a very small contingency for the budget. When you break down where the revenue comes from, 73% comes from the ad valorem property taxes. We get about 10% from state and local shared revenue, 10% from utility taxes. That's electrical, cable, water, all that kind of stuff. Recreation is less than 1%. We're getting about 2.25% in grants that we'll be getting this year. Fines is about 1%. Miscellaneous revenue is less than 1%, and then operating transfer ins is almost 2%. And then the breakdown, where are we spending the majority of the money? Personnel, almost 60%. Operating costs is at a 35. Our capital is about 3. The interfund transfer is about 3, and then contingency is less than 1%. Can we even call 0.05 anything actually? So in the first workshop, I presented the budget, and on the website, those documents are still not only in the July, but even in this calendar, you'll see the changes. So the only thing that I'm highlighting here are the changes between the first workshop and our second. And I'm doing that to try to consolidate and to kind of move us along, because if not, we'll be here until 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So the changes to revenue, and there is an additional update that we just found out today in the afternoon. So the changes in the revenue is we're showing the 85,000 that we're getting from the state grant for the vulnerability study. We're showing that revenue coming in. We're showing there was a decrease in a state revenue projection for the municipal sharing that we get from them. It's only a $1,300 decrease, so it didn't impact us too much. And then there's an increase in the transfer into the general fund, this coming from the road fund, and we'll get into why we're seeing a $22,000 transfer in there. The one that's not listed in here is that there is a small projection, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's up, if I'm not mistaken, the communication tax. The state just released their forecast, so I think we're getting a $2,000 increase in what the documents say right now. Paul, it's an increase, correct?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
it'll be about $2,000.
Okay. And so from the staff recommended budget changes between the first and the second is increasing the amount of phone lines within the commission to 5. We have 5 commissioners. Currently, 1 commissioner has declined it and personally pays for that. Due to the elections, we want to make sure that we budget that each of the commissioners can each have 5. From the administrative, we do have a little bit more. And so per the commission in the July workshop, you all said that you wanted to see the 6% included in the administration. Tonight, we talked about that 6% going, so it won't be with regards to merit and cost of living. So that will change. It'll keep the other FRS and FICA flat. It'll keep the salary flat, but we'll see that percentage change into the health benefits total under this category. Professional services, Muni Code, they've changed their billing. And so that's why we saw a decrease. And so once I met with them again to get a better understanding, they're going into an annual fee subscription-based type of service. So their annual fees overall are about, will be reduced to $13.40 for the village. So it's a small reduction there. We're doing another reduction based on all the code ordinances that we did this year. They charge it based on per page that we have. So when we do an ordinance, I think prior years, they just had a flat fee on ordinances. Now they changed it for per page on what that means to our code. So that's why we're also seeing from last year to this year, we saw that reduction there. So there is a slight reduction here.
Sorry, I don't think I understood that. They're charging us by the page within the Muni Code.
No, so when we do an ordinance,
Right.
an ordinance might contain 7 pages of data. They charge us per page, so they'll charge us for those 7 pages.
Gotcha.
And then they'll codify that. So that is different, where before everything was being charged per the ordinance. That's why last year we had budgeted 9,800. So we're able, based on everything we've done so far this year, $2,000 is going to cover what we
So it's
need.
not a flat rate just for an ordinance.
Right.
It's how long it is actually.
Exactly.
If Valerie's listening, she needs to use a smaller font.
The auditing, I went back, there's, apart from our internal auditors, or not our internal, I'm sorry, from our annual auditors, there's a certain calculation that's needed to be performed on a yearly basis. They were increasing their price to $3,000 per year, and I negotiated that down to $2,500. The administrative code, as we can see, we're doing the transfer to show the vulnerability study. Not only are we getting the money from the state, but we have to show the expenditure, which you'll see under the capital. And then you're seeing the building department to cover a potential shortfall. In July, it was a $42,000 based on the negotiation that I did with the company and that you all approved earlier this week. That was reduced to $26,000. And then every year we have issues with our septic tank here at Village Hall. I wasn't here when the tank was installed, but the last company that came out said they installed it backwards. I don't know necessarily how that works, but we have our septic overflow into Village Hall at least twice a year. So we are budgeting to try to make sure that we have a quarterly pump out so that we prevent that. That is still cheaper than trying to do the ultimate fix. And the septic tank is fairly new, so I'm not recommending just digging it all up and fixing the ultimate fix. So I did propose $3,000 after finally getting a quote. It's going to be about $2,000 a year based on the size that we have. So I've reduced that down. Police, there were a few budget changes. Staff is requesting, and I have Nick is on Zoom, and I have the chief here in case we have any questions. So police, we're actually requesting an additional part-time officer. This year, we've had several instances where we're actually going, you'll see in your July and in the department budgets, our part-time officers are actually, we're overspending than what was budgeted. And it's because we've had multiple injuries on the job, which is also why insurance and our workman's comp and everything is going up. So we've had to use the part-time to help cover for the full-time officers, and that starts moving. And then we've had to bring in reserves as well. So there's a cascading effect. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough part-time officers to be able to do that. And so what I did is I've separated this one position from the actual line item in your department worksheets, so that you can see what the impact of that one officer would be. So that's 19,000 on the salary side that it goes up. It goes up 1,400 on the FICA and Medicare. Retirement goes up 5,200. However, again, it's not much, but going through again our audit to make sure everybody who needs a phone has a phone and stuff like that, we saw that there was an opportunity to reduce one of the reimbursements that were being paid out. So that's obviously being budgeted out. And then the water service is the utility, the regular, you turn on the faucet, you go to the bathroom, that's the water. It's a little too difficult right now for us to be able to separate what is Village Hall and what is police department. So I've just, because right now we're paying all of that through admin, I've just eliminated the water utility from the police budget, and it's already budgeted. It actually doesn't change on the admin side. So we're budgeted okay. So I just removed that 2,200 overall from the budget.
Actually, a quick question on that.
Yes,
I know you're going to go back, but you explained something differently now than when you and I met. Not that you're changed your story. I didn't mean it to sound like that, but I now I understand the need for the part-time officer a little bit differently. So what I heard you say, let me repeat it back and tell me if I got this right. We've been overpaying the part-timers because we didn't have enough to cover schedules with injuries and da, 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 da. Where were we paying? In an overtime budget somewhere?
No, we have a line item for part-time salaries.
Right.
What I'm saying is, we've given our part-time officers more hours.
Or hours, okay.
So
You're
you'll
still paying,
see,
you're paying them by the hour.
yeah, part-time, you pay them
Got
by
it.
the hour.
Okay.
So
You're
what
just
you'll
paying them
see, what you'll see in your.
I get it, I
your
get it. So
department
we're not
is-
seeing it as an overtime somewhere else like we
No.
do in Public Works.
No,
We're seeing it just as an increase in that item.
in the line item for.
So we're
part-time
not
salaries.
going, okay, so because of what I was going to ask you is show me where we're going to gain the loss of expenses, but we're not going to see that because it's all lumped in one line.
Correct. What you're gaining is making sure that we have sufficient coverage.
I understand. Okay, I get it
Please.
now. You know, what'd be an
then
interesting
the-
thing to see is, and not for now, not for this year, but for next year's budget, what would be an interesting thing to see is each officer broken down separately, because we don't see them separate, do we? We
No,
see
and
7
I-
part-time officers, 7.
Correct.
It'd be neat
I
if we saw them,
I don't recommend doing that. I don't.
not by their names, just so we can see how they're getting paid. How they're getting paid, but so when we look at the actual budget, we can see why are we paying so much for something?
So in the collective bargaining agreement, in the backup that you all passed earlier this week, you have certain steps that police officers are in, and every year they move up in the step. So I can definitely provide you how many officers are in each step.
That'd be great.
So that you'd be able
So at
to.
least we'd be able to see.
Yeah.
Okay, but in step, I know they have, I forget what they're called. I saw it in the contract that I read, the different steps.
Yeah.
Like if we have 3 officers in at that step in that range, we budget a certain amount and then we can see what we actually spend on those people.
Correct.
That would be for next year. That would
Okay.
be a really cool thing to see.
No problem. Code, a few changes here. We did hire another code officer. They start actually tomorrow. And so I reduced the overall salary to reflect what is actually there. It's a difference of 2,500. That affected the FICA and the retirement contributions. We did increase though, to my knowledge, and it's not something that I ever really thought about last year, but our code officers never had village phone. And so when I took a look at that, there was a situation that came up, and I was like, why are you using your private phone? It was like, well, I don't have a village one. And I was like, I didn't think we actually needed, but they do use it quite a bit. So we did get 2 additional lines for for them. And in there, we also have an iPad now that we have OpenGov, so that they can use and be able to use that in the field. And then education and training. We had budgeted last year because we were joining the association for FACE and the training and the testing and all that, looking at how that goes. And even with the new officer coming in and then having to go get his level 1 certification and possibly level 2 and things like that, I was able to tighten that down, and we cut it basically in half. So it's we cut a difference of 1,400 for code. In Public Works, there's a few differences here. And so for Public Works, we decreased I'm sorry, the contract services, just give me 1 second. Each department almost has the same line item. So going through each and every one, I start mixing them together, and I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right number. I apologize. Okay, so contract services is where we pay the janitorial services for the village. And then there was another service, another line item that's called other services custodial, and we had $1,000 in there. I think it was budgeted in case we had a COVID outbreak and we needed to do a deep cleaning in the buildings and stuff like that. Knock on wood, we didn't need to do that last year, and I don't know that we need to budget for that moving forward. So I just removed that from the budget, so that's $1,000 there. Repairs and maintenance, we used the money for the new water pump, which we received. Our crews did trainings, and I posted that on Nextdoor so everybody knows, because I know that was an interest to many. But we had a line item allocated to fix the roof in the old Public Works building that is now kind of their workshop. The roof is gone. There's holes. The struts are rotted out. So we need to repair that. We had budgeted $25,000. We've been trying to get various different quotes, and even for a shingled roof, which unless there's an engineer's letter, you're not allowed to do, but the weight of the struts cannot hold tile and stuff like that. So we might have to go with a shingle version. But even that was coming in at about $28,000 for all the work. So I bumped it up within our budget to 30 to make sure that we have proper coverage, so that we can try to complete that before, not only when it rains, not only do we get leaks, but that starts leaking onto equipment and things like that the guys use, which then means we're spending more money on trying to maintain the equipment. The dues and memberships, we had the association and the education and trainings that Albert participates in. He's a licensed civil engineer, and so he needs to maintain his certification and his licenses. After talking to him, going through and auditing that process, we decreased it from 2,000 down to 1,500. I'm sorry, it decreased to 500. So a difference of 1,500 for the dues and memberships. And then we decreased 500 for the education and training, looking at what he would need. He has sufficient credits right now. So next year it's much less than what he will need to make up what the annual requirement would be. So we reduced that by half as well. So down to 500 as well. Parks and Recreation, just a few differences. I think it was the Andersons at the last budget workshop that talked about our recreation manager's salary. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I think our recreation manager is outstanding. He's been with the village for so long, since, I almost want to say since high school or early college as a part-time, and then all the way up. I don't think there's a more trusted individual employee in the village than Issa, and I think he's earned that and more. Even with the 6%, he doesn't hit 60,000 as a recreation manager, technically parks director, right? That's not even a fraction of what other cities are paying. Other cities are paying just for the recreation manager or a supervisor to oversee the part-timers and everything. They're paying 60,000 or more, and they have probably one park, no events because that's a separate department in other cities and stuff like that. So, I wanted to not only give him the 6%, which I think is more than deserving, but I wanted to put him into the 60 range. So the differences that you see in the Parks and Recreation is for salary, FICA, and retirement, and how that all affects.
I think that's really important because all of the activities that we do affect Isa. He's at every single thing that the Arts Board puts out. He's there for everything, and he's amazing at what he does, and I totally support that.
That's what I'm proposing. Yeah, so I'm proposing that we raise it to 60 and all these additional, he's running not only parks, but also events department, essentially.
That would be a wise thing. We certainly get our money's worth out of them. So I think 60,000.
Thank you. The building fund, we have a few changes in here. Again, mainly due to the negotiation and what the commission approved this week with the new vendor, right? So again, we have the interfund transfer of 26,000, which initially in the first workshop, if you look at your documents, it's 42,000. So we were able to reduce that because we renegotiated what the revenue split would be. In the first budget workshop, you saw that the revenue based on their proposal was a 90-10 split, was a $94,000 expenditure. With the 75-25 finalized negotiated revenue split, that brought it down to 78,000, so a $15,000 decrease. Then also looking at the operating supplies, here's one of these areas where with Village Hall, same as with the police water, because we're such in a small space, somebody needs a pen, someone needs more paper. We go to where all the paper and all that, and it's too difficult to kind of separate. So I decreased the overall operating supplies from the building fund to 500, which is a difference of 1,100. Keeping something in there just in case, we're looking at where the costs of things are and what's needed and stuff like that in case we do have an allocation that we can get to. Capital funds is where you're going to see some of the bigger changes, I think.
Sorry to ask you to go back. Can you go back a slide?
Of course.
Something kind of zipped past me, and I know we're going to talk. We'll have the opportunity to talk again. The building fund, object code 381, the interfund transfer. It's a revenue increase for the building department that's coming from the general fund.
Correct.
I am seeing this completely backwards. Why is it a revenue increase? I mean, I understand why we're recognizing a revenue increase within the building fund that's being transferred in from the general fund when it's coming from permit fees that go to the building.
So what this revenue is showing is that we're showing the revenue leaving the general fund and going into the building fund. They're completely separate.
Revenue within the building. Fund.
Within the building, right. So it's completely
That's
different.
because they had a shortfall.
So based on all the expenditures that we have within the building department, which all comes out of this one fund within this account, you were, even with the reduced 75-25 revenue split, because of the hard costs that we have within the building fund, you're still potentially going to be short 26,000.
A shortfall for budgeting purposes.
Right. So we moved.
Be prepared.
Right. So we moved it from general into the building.
Right. So I understand that it's a revenue, but if we're getting more from the 75-25 split, then
Even
because the first budget, you were budgeting based on the 90-10.
right.
You renegotiated, you got us a better rate.
Right.
Now we're getting 25%.
And so that decreased the overall revenue transfer in from 42 to 26.
That's where I'm getting twisted up. Why did it
Okay.
decrease?
We had a $42,000
Because our revenue-
shortfall. Now we only have a
Right,
$26,000.
because the revenue that we're
But
seeing,
it says a revenue increase of.
right,
Oh, so it's an, oh, I
So
see. So it's an
we're-
increase of, not 226, an increase of 26.
right.
Got it. It's the preposition that got me backwards.
Right, because we are recognizing the increase of the 20 from 10 to 25% within it, but you're still going to be that short. So that's what we're bringing into it. And Paul, if you can ever clarify something, feel free to jump in. Let me see. Why is it not moving?
You said
Capital
it as clear
projects.
as it can be.
Thanks. Capital projects, again, the vulnerability study, which is a grant, we're seeing 85,000 going in from the general fund into the capital fund. And then this is where we're seeing the expenditure of that 85,000. And this is a reimbursement from the state. So we got to spend the money first, which is why it's leaving the general fund. So we got to move 85,000. The way, Paul, can you explain how it is that we're showing that within the, it goes from general, we transfer it into capital, we spend it, then we send on a quarterly basis, we send it to the state, they reimburse us for those funds, and then that reimburses essentially the general fund. So it's
Correct. It's a revenue at that point.
yeah, it's a net zero type of change, but we got it for the auditors and how all the money shows up.
Yeah,
in
it
the
has,
books. We gotta
it's
show
flowing
each step.
across two funds. Yes, yeah, it's flowing across both funds, first as an initial grant and then as it gets reimbursed. So you've got it perfectly.
It would just be better if they just gave us the money up front. So road fund, this is where we saw the $22,000 going into the general fund. And it's something that one of the commissioners were pointing out. It's like, hey, you know, we're not really seeing expenditures in these line items. And when we were looking into it, it became same as with police with the water, and now with the supplies with building and admin. Public Works buys the janitorial supplies, they buy the materials, the asphalt they need to fill in potholes and all that kind of stuff. And so it was like, okay, where is this actually coming from? So what we're doing is we're moving those costs that is within the road fund, we're moving that over to where the expenditures actually are, which is in the Public Works Department or the general fund. So that's why you're seeing these decreases within the road fund. CITT, so this is the next big one that we're going to spend a little bit of time on because we were finally able to complete it between the first and the second. And I do have an announcement in here as well. So first and foremost, the revenue that we see from this fund is this year, we were able to secure from the state to do our storm drain and road repair project that's underway in design right now, $350,000. So that was that was a lot of work that we put into it, and we were able to grab it. Now, the matching funds, because the state needs you to match it dollar for dollar. So where are we going to get that? We get those matching funds from the CITT, the Citizens Independent Transit and Transportation, or no, transportation tax. And so we get that on a yearly basis. They allocate money to almost every city, whatever city was in place when the tax was first implemented on a countywide. And obviously we're one of those. For many years, Biscayne Park did nothing with the money, or very, very little. And prior to me coming on board, they were going to claw back the money. In other words, the village was going to owe several hundred of thousands of dollars to the county to pay them back. You can only accumulate these funds for 5 years. We had done it for at least 10. Because of the work that Paul put in with other members of the community, they were able to put in and show, hey, look, we've actually spent some of this money. And then when I came on board, we were able to work through and get them to say, okay, even though you owe us X amount, we're going to we're going to give Mario a chance. And Commissioner Sally Hayman really championed with the CITT director and their board and said, you know, Mario has a good reputation. He's got great connections. Let's give him a chance. If in a couple months you see that there's no movement, then you go forward with whatever has to be done. But they saw we were starting to churn in all the reports that we needed. The commission, thank you very much, allowed me to contract a public works director because we did not have Albert at that time. And so that person was able to start moving very quickly as a consultant. And we got to the point where they're like, okay, wonderful. So, okay, Mario, great, long story. What's the great news? For the last 3 years, the requirement to spend or receive any of that money was we needed to use every dollar of our backlog. So all of the money for the transportation or the infrastructure section, you'll see in this slide, it says CITT Transportation and Transit Services. So they would give us $140,000 and then 80% can be used in transportation. Minimum of 20% had to be used for transit services. Well, we never use transit services because we don't have transit. Again, with Commissioner Sally Hayman, she allowed us to be able to get the freebie service. So now we send them the contract. They're like, oh, you're actually going to start using it. Great. Transportation. Well, you have $400,000 that you need to use. How are you going to use that in transportation? Before we release 3 fiscal years, 20, 21, 22, and now 23. We now have the storm drain construction design and construction project. The commission approved that project, approved the vendor. We're moving forward. They have the contract that said, great, but we need to start seeing that money being used. We were going to run into a little bit of a cash flow problem because once we used that money that was carried over for the past 10 years, what they wanted, the way that their system is, we would have to pay the invoice, show them that we paid it. They would then reimburse us with whatever they were going to reallocate to us. So we would have to pay from our reserves the contractor and then get it reimbursed from both the state and get it reimbursed from CITT. That becomes a cash flow. I'm not a fan of using our reserves for these type of services. So I sent a letter to CITT. I spoke to the director, their staff and their auditors. And I was like, listen, we're doing the best we can, but we're not Miami. We're not Coral Gables. We're not even some of these other mid-sized cities like Miami Lakes or Doral, or even smaller, quote unquote, small cities like North Bay Village or Bay Harbor or Ball Harbor or Sunny or any of these. We don't have that kind of resource. You have our contract. You've seen the invoice, at least the first invoice from this contractor, which was about $67,000. We're going to be spending this very quickly. In order to get reimbursed from the state, we need to be able to pay them. Can you release these 3 years? They said no, but they found a compromise. They said, okay, Mario, this is what we'll do for you because you've been meeting every goal that we've set for you. If you get an invoice, you send us an invoice, we will release the funds to you. And then within 30 days, you need to provide us proof from your bank that check was issued and paid to that invoice. So it eliminates the cash flow. It means we don't need to use our reserves to pay for the project before we get that reimbursed. So essentially they're saying, give me the invoice and we'll pay it. And then that is getting used where we can then go to the state and say, look, for this quarter, this is all the money that we paid. Then they reimburse us for that. So
we're not fronting the money anymore.
So we're not fronting the money. So that is a very big deal, at least for me. We also got an increase this year from 140 in CITT to 198 in revenue. So that went up as well. So all great news. It really puts us in a good position. So you're seeing we're going to have about 803,000 dedicated towards the design and construction of the project. We've got 15,000 for storm drain cleaning that's going to be allocated. And then we have the lighting costs, the various street lights throughout the village It's gone up a little bit, but it's about 26,000. In transit, our freebie service is 120. If you all remember, in the manager's report earlier this week, we showed in July, they already had 200 trips that were being done. So people are using freebie. I think it's a good service, and I anticipate it continuing to go up. So that's really good, apart from other details that are in there in that report. So that is what you're seeing here in the CITT. We have it allocated per budget, per project. So there's 5 projects. We have that allocated per project that CITT has, because they wanted to see how much you're spending on each, and then where the state coming in. So between the state and the CITT revenue that we had not only saved up, but the last 3 years, fiscal years, we have enough for all that. That doesn't mean we've solved the problem, obviously. And so here, this is similar to what we did last year. Here you have 5 different phases of the project, right? And so you're looking, these are very low estimates. So the first projects that we're currently working on design build is that first set, that first group. The initial design estimate, we were talking about $700,000, almost $800,000. The overall project came in at 1.07 million, almost 1.1 million. So, and that's due because of cost of increase in labor, cost of increase of material, and all those type of things. And so we can't just say, oh, it's $50,000 we're going to throw in. And so the priority that we've been looking at is, how do we continue to chop this list down? We did receive ARP funds last year, and we just received the other half this year. So we have 1.5 million that is going towards these projects. Next year, Albert is already working on the scope of service for a design project for the next phase of projects that you will see here listed. 115th Street on 2 sections going north and going east and west, essentially from 7th Avenue to 9th Court, 11th Place, 114th Street, 10th Avenue, and 108th Street. And so there you're having the next phase of projects. Yeah, we look at all the important areas and areas that are critical. They're all critical, but we're trying to prioritize as best as possible. This staff does not ignore anybody within the village. We just try to actually prioritize what we can. So the first part of that project is getting the design plans. We have 0 design plans. We have 0 concept. We don't have permits. We don't have anything outside of knowing these areas need to be addressed. So we're building the scope to put in the contract, an RFP together, so that we can get a contractor to come in and develop everything up to the point that we can now go not only for permits, but do an RFP or a procurement for the construction of it. It's going to be different than what we currently did, because what we currently have is a design build. They're working on a parallel track. So as soon as design gets to a certain area and they get permitted by the county, construction can start, even though they might still be working on design of another section of the project. So this next phase, because it's federal funds, will be finish the complete design. And then once that's done, then you go into construction. So it's not working on a parallel. So it's going to take a little bit longer, but we should have the money. I'm hoping to have enough money for those next 6 streets. And then we'll continue to apply for state funds, looking for state grants. The vulnerability study is really going to help us, because it's going to start, it's the first step of going after other type of grants that we don't qualify for now, because we don't have that information available to qualify for those grants. So
Question
go, yeah,
before you
of course.
ask that top. So back up to where it says the cost of the initial estimate was an engineer. Okay, phase 1A was actually bid at 1 million, which was 300,000 more than the estimate. So the estimate was 700 and it came in at 1 million. That's a 43% overage. Whoa. Okay, so you said materials, labor, I get it. It's impacting.
It's also the time. Remember these.
That's what I want to ask you. So when was the estimate given? The original estimate, was that pre-COVID?
It was early 2021. And then the RFP for everything for the actual design construction, because we still needed to create documents for, didn't happen until 2022.
Who gave you the initial estimate for?
When we were doing the initial review and plans and everything in 2021. So there, it was almost,
Internally, we come up with that number or
Yeah.
something outside?
well, it's both Jose and Calvin Giordano that looked at that number. And again, there's a completely different world between 2021 and 2022.
43%. So.
Yeah, it's a big difference. And the worst, I wish I could say it was competitive, but there was only one bidder. So that also tells me that the projects are very small, and that every company has a certain bonding capacity that they can take on, because they have to provide a bond to do the work to the village and stuff like that. So they don't want to tie up their capacity for a project that's this small. At least none of those big companies. And we asked around, there was a couple that we thought, because we had about 6 companies do the pre-bid meeting for the design bid. And so when we reached out, they're like, yeah, we looked at it, and it didn't make sense to put all the resources into the bid and trying to put everything together and make so little off of it, when the state is building 836 and I-95, and those are almost $1 billion projects. And you're talking about sewer areas in other parts of the county. They're like, that's where our big profit is. So, so we can anticipate that the next phase is going to be more than $1 million. And so, but we do have 1.5 from the federal money to kind of do for both design and construction. So that's everything on there for the presentation. Okay, now I can bring up the departmental workshops. There's 2 things that we can do at this junction, and I'll ask for the commission for guidance. We can go into the individual commission request for changes, or we can go to the advisory board changes first, whichever one you all feel more comfortable tackling first, and then we can tackle.
I think since the people are here for the advisory boards, maybe we should, and sometimes I think there's an overlap between what commissioners
times.
wanted and what advisory boards asked for. So I think just to be respectful for their time, I mean, we're going to be here till we're done. Maybe we should go and work with them.
Yes, absolutely. Let me just make this. I don't have a time frame, sir. So we have, so first, and I did it alphabetical order of the name. I didn't put any kind of importance or priorities on anything. They all sent me, we had 3 or 4 boards that sent 4 that provided information to us, even Parks and Parkways on here. I still included it because Barbara had sent me several months ago, and I wanted to make sure it was still on here. So the first is the arts and culture. And maybe Nicole, if you want to go to the mic in case there's any questions from the commission, you guys can answer.
Maybe I missed this. With all of these changes, where are we? Where do we stand?
We stand at still at a 9.5, and that's a great question. Let me just show one.
Are we breaking even? Are we at a surplus?
Can we just do the review page first?
Okay, yeah, one quick second. Let me just bring that up, and I do apologize. Skipping ahead. Okay, Nicole, maybe sit down for a second because this is going to take me a few more minutes. Sorry. Yeah, psych. Come on. Okay, it's faster to go through the internet, so I will do that. Share my screen from here. Share. Okay. So from an overall revenue perspective, total revenue that we're anticipating is 3,800, realistically 12, $3,812,714 because we did get that bump in the communication tax.
3.8 now, it says?
Correct. 3.8.
3.8, got it.
Yeah. Didn't really change too much from the July. When we go, let's go to the budget summary. I think that's going to probably be the best page. Okay. So overall, with all the changes that staff has presented today, if you all accept it, expenditures are 3.799. So we'll have 11,312 in excess revenue that can be used either to expenditures or to move into the fund balance, or, you know, quote unquote, the reserves.
Is that?
Yes.
including the board's request?
No, I have not made any determination on any board requests or any commission requests. That I felt was the purview of the commission and not of staff.
So from the first time we looked at this to today, you moved some numbers around, got some updated information. tightened
Some
things up.
small changes down, some
But
small changes
you met
up.
with all of us individually, didn't make our changes. I'm going to guess
No.
some of us pointed things out to you that you said,
Yeah.
yeah, we should do that anyway. Okay. So you made all the tweaks,
Correct.
and we have $11,000 extra, but we have not had a single commissioner request or a single board request.
Correct. So as of right
No
now,
wants all of it.
Nicole wants all of it. Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
So there is some leeway with the 11,000 of what we can do with that. And again, the commission does have the option to move the millage, further reduce expenditures in certain departments. I'll read off, or all of the above, exactly. And I'll be able to read off everything. Was there any questions so far on this?
No, I'm not on click on the board.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about board stuff, and then you're going to.
Okay. So now, Nicole. Yeah. And that is still at a 9.5. So I did not move the millage at all. Okay, so Arts and Boards, they have several events that they're looking for. They provided a little bit more detail of what the money would go towards. I know that Nicole already spoke through those requests already, but we have that, and this was also provided as part of your backup to everything. So just to go through, is there any commentary before we get to the consensus of each of the individuals, whether to do one or not? Yeah, and it's part of your backup, sir.
What? I'm sorry, say it again.
Is there any questions or commentary on what the Arts and Culture Board is requesting before we go into the individual? Do you want to fund this one or not? Like, just more of a general consensus.
If I can say, all the boards, I'm really very much against any money going to the boards. It should be,
It's not
I don't think the
Goes-
taxpayers.
It goes to the foundation.
What?
I think it goes through the foundation or it
It
goes
has to-
through
but It has
us.
to be fundraising and grants. It really, there are a lot of people in Biscayne Park that don't utilize this. I don't think it's fair to have this as part of our budget.
We've always had these things like the,
No, but.
this, we've had it with the
the
recreation
amount has
department.
grown, and it's only going to get higher.
So at what, Mario, I'm sorry, but at what point are we going to discuss millage?
And, we're going to supply police. It costs us a fortune supplying police, it's.
At what point?
Discuss the millage.
Discuss the millage?
Yeah, yeah, I think if you go through, then you can see where we are with that. And then or reverse, you can say, okay, this is the millage where we want to be. And so we know how much revenue we have. And then based on the various requests for both boards and commissioners, you start knocking off from whatever is left over. There's a lot of different ways to kind of tackle this. There's not one complete right way. I think what I would like to do is go through, see where the commission gets consensus on certain items, and then we'll know what the final total would be.
Whittle it down.
And then we can say, okay, at the end of the day, between board and commissioners, it looks like we need to find 50,000, 100,000, 5,000, whatever that might be. And then that's okay. Where do we find that? Do we want to raise the millage to address that? Mario, find some other cost savings and come back to us for the first reading with it.
Because we know that we're not gonna, we're budgeting at 9.5, and I kind of doubt we're gonna have a conversation about going further down, but we could talk 9.6, 9.7, and we know for each one of those points up or down, it's $29,000.
Mario, I'm sorry, the lighting and the ADA that we're going to be doing here, how much money did we have budgeted for that?
So I budgeted 20,000. It's not enough. It's basically the walkway and to fix some of the parking spaces and stuff like that. To help meet all the lighting issues, you're adding another, like, I'll bring up while you are discussing, I'll bring it up, but I believe it was like an additional $60,000.
60,000.
So you're talking,
20?
so you're talking about an $80,000 project. I just didn't see with everything and some of the other areas that we had where to come up with that. And then also looking at all the additional requests. It just, Nicole, take the mic with you. Take the mic with you. That way, when we start, you don't have to keep getting up and down. I'm sorry.
So how do
A
you,
little bit is rolling with the punches, as we've been saying today.
so how do you guys want to do this? I kind of like the way Mario has it set up let's talk through all the asks, knowing that we have $29,000 a pop if we adjust up, and then at the end, we'll have a shortened list and we can see, okay, how much more money are we really trying to come up with? And yeah. Okay.
$20,000 that you have, you got a proposal for that, I'm assuming? That 20,000, the ADA?
So it's based off of what Calvin Giordano
But
presented to us.
yeah, my concern is that just like this thing, that $20,000 was a while ago, and now all of a sudden it went to $35,000, $40,000 for that one. For the ADA compliance,
So,
walkway and all that.
Yeah, we had budgeted that revenue, and I believe we ended up moving it towards something else.
No, I understand. But I'm talking about now, going forward in in our new budget, we've budgeted.
Oh, you mean like design? Yeah. And these
So-
are estimates overall. We're not going to know what the actual price is until we do the procurement for the entire project. We're just using, Calvin Giordano is providing those figures based on their cost estimates, right? Of what they've seen, okay, a light pole is going to cost $10,000. So, with the electrical work, you're looking at they kind of put a figure around it, but there's no way to know what the actual cost is until you do the actual procurement. So it could be a little bit more or a little bit less. Just depends on what the market is. Not in today's market. So that's why I tried to split it up. I split it up so that the village can take an approach of a multi-year approach. Because if you do the entire project, you're going to have to pay the contractor all at once. You're not going to do all the work and then take payment over the next 3 years. The other option is taking it from reserves. That's an option. That's an option as well. So, and not something that I recommend. I don't want to touch reserves, but it is a tool in your toolkit that you all can do. Okay, so if there's consensus with, let's find out where we're going to stand with the money, then we can do that. So, in October, there's an evening with BP Art Talk. They're asking for 500. And it's really to cover the speaker fee, staffing of the rec, and to keep or the log cabin, and purchase some refreshments. Does the commission prefer to just go over all of them individually or talk about all the events as a whole?
Oh,
Yeah, let's
I
do
think
the whole- Can I
that
make a
might-
general, can we make
Yeah,
a general?
more of a,
comment?
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so here's my general comment to you guys. First of all, this is fabulous. The fact that you sat down, you had meetings, and you came up with a schedule and attached money to it. Look what you did for this year and imagine what it'll be next year. So fabulous work. Thank you very much. Now, that having been said, we do have a budget to stay within. I would like to see you guys funding some of your own stuff. So you're doing things and you're raising money. Mango Fest, Martha, how much did you raise? I forget. You sent me an email. $2,000. Yeah. Oh, so that's where your $2,000 came from, was the Mango Fest. So you guys do events that are really cool and they can be self-funded by the revenue that comes out the back end, and then you can move some of that money forward. So I'd like to see you trying to be as self-sufficient as you can and coming to us for some of the bigger things. And this year we're kind of flying blind, but some of the bigger things could bring revenue in. And next year we'll be able to say, you gave us this much money for Jazz Fest and we raised this much so next year it will be a whole different operation, because you'll attach revenue to these things as well. But I'd like to see you try to fund yourself for some of these things, especially the smaller things. Like,
Has to be
Also,
through the
it
foundation.
forced
It has to be
us-
through, fundraising is not allowed by boards. It has to be done through the foundation.
right, they move the
It's
money
in our
through the
charter.
foundation. They do that. That's what I asked at the top of the meeting, and Mario and
Don't have a heart
Nicole
attack,
confirmed
Nicole.
that they're doing that.
We'll make
We
sure
know
we
the
help
rules
out.
What is it?
inside out and in
Budgeting
all
for
ways.
something.
But also, Mac.
Yeah.
It costs us so much when we start with keeping the overtime salaries that we pay. You have to be self-sufficient, because if we're going to donate stuff, it's going to be the services which cost us a lot of money. I mean, the police, the staffing in the rec center, all these people are on overtime for these functions. And,
Jenny
and
made a
it-
really good point earlier. You said it really nicely, that every resident, every property owner is paying for this, and every property owner is
right. And that's-
participating in it. So in essence, we're using everybody's money for things they may not want. So we always have to find that sweet spot, right?
If Jazz Festival had a ton of
4,000.
people,
That's a whole different animal. That was
That's-
something
yeah.
else.
a ton
That's-
of people.
And Mango Fest, did too, but it produced revenue. So I'd like to see you try to kind of take care of yourself. And I think next year you'll do a better job of that, because you'll know this is what we brought in through the foundation. So,
The Children's Trust, I heard, gives donations for things that are going to include children. I mean, there are
The
a lot
other
of areas to go for money.
The other thing, we had some donations from Great Waste for some of our things, and we could certainly talk to them about donating in and helping. They helped with the Winterfest last.
and the other
I
thing.
mean,
you
we
guys
have
can-
infrastructure that we really, if we've got extra money, we got lots of
yeah.
stuff in this village.
And you guys also
I
have
just-
the ability to go, and
I think
someone
we need
correct
to
me if I'm
help them
saying this.
somewhere to get it started.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure I'm going to say this exactly right, but you can go to the foundation. The foundation has the ability to go collect money for stuff. They don't
Mhm.
just have to sell things and make money internally. I'm going to make something up. You have an art talk. Let's say you have a book read thing coming in. So it's a literature event. The foundation has the ability to go to local, is there such thing as a
We
bookstore?
don't have any stores.
I know, I don't think there's a bookstore, but I'm going to use that as an example, to go ask someone to sponsor it. And they get name sponsors, name rights for the event. So
Yeah.
you, through them,
Publix,
do have the,
I mean,
do have the
there are-
ability to go ask businesses to sponsor as well for naming rights and things like that. So maybe this is a way we could approach it. It just popped in my head. Maybe we look at their list and kind of pick off the couple that we want to fund to kind of get, like Judy said, get them started this year. And then you guys maybe can try to figure out to do some of the rest on your own. You have a microphone in your hand?
Gotta Turn on your mics here.
Yeah, so
Well, let me just say one thing. When I was on the rec board, chairperson of the rec board, we got crucified for trying to come to the commission to get money exactly what you guys are doing. First off, what you're doing is fantastic. I like everything, but it should be done through the foundation, not through this commission. I was on the board of the rec center and Parks and Parkway. We all got crucified for trying to raise money.
That was a different administration. We
Well,
try to be
But
nicer.
that's what it says in our charter. You can't, no, but it says in our charter, you can't. It says in our charter that boards are not allowed to fundraise. It has to go through the foundation.
It
all
does
of our
go through the
fundraising goes
foundation.
through the
It
foundation.
does.
It does.
It does.
Doesn't say anything about us.
It does.
Yeah, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. It's not fair to the residents of Biscayne Park to pay for things that maybe everybody doesn't want to do.
Well,
I think this stuff is great, but
Well,
that's
we
why
do-
it's got to be separate fundraising.
fund the
And
rec
every
center that
single
everybody does
year,
with the
we
Jews.
pay for the school board. And I don't send children to school in Dade County, but we still pay for it.
We
and
pay for a
whether-
rec center. I don't have kids that go to the rec center.
Right.
You want to go tell the
So-
residents?
So
that
if I-
having
Can I
these
re-
things
can
and
I
they're paying
respond?
for it?
They,
Yeah,
have
and they
something to
love
say.
it. They love it.
If I might interject on behalf of my board, I totally understand. And I know that there's a million things on the budget that you all have to balance and take into account. I will say that, I mean, we've done 2 events recently since I've joined the board, and our board has tripled in numbers, which I think shows just in itself that we have overwhelming support from the community. We had 4,000 people at the Jazz Festival. We didn't do a head count at Mango Fest because we were too busy.
It
Um,
was packed.
but it was packed. And I think that you can see through our calendar of events, we have something for everybody. Our job is the Arts and Culture Board, is to put on events supporting arts and culture in Biscayne Park. And we put together as a team with support from the community and taking into account ideas interjected by the community, which we put together a calendar of events that is diverse and it is rich. And there is something for everybody there. And I am certain that if we release this calendar to the public of Biscayne Park, every single resident will find at least one event that they would like to attend.
Why do you want to change the Christmas, the holiday thing that we do? What do we need $500 for the holiday? And doing a bicycle thing when we have the police going all through? We don't
We're
spend
not
any
trying
money.
to change that. I'm like, I've only been in Biscayne Park for 2 years. That was my board's suggestion, but they said that there used to be a bicycle parade and then it wasn't done recently.
I have never seen a bicycle parade. We have the cars going through Biscayne Park
No, it wasn't exactly that.
with Santa Claus.
First of all, we're not trying to change anything. We
Separate-
want to try
it
to
was a separate
piggyback.
time.
Yeah.
Well, what's
we-
the $500 for?
Going
Okay.
sideways
Okay.
really
Okay.
quick.
This is real. Can I
Listen,
make
guys,
a
listen,
recommendation?
Listen, there's 5 of us here. Can we go through?
Can I
Yeah,
just, can I add
it would be
one?
an easy
one
way to
thing?
do this.
Can I finish
Sorry,
my,
can I-
my
Go ahead.
comment?
Sorry. Nicole.
Anyways, I think, yes, no other board has done this and organized like this and asked for this much funding, but we are no other board. And we have shown in an incredibly small amount of time that we are here. We are not being paid to be on the art board. I spent weeks of my time, my personal time, instead of working on my own business, calling people to fundraise for the Jazz Festival. We are active and we are organized. And yes, we can fundraise for ourselves. We have shown that, but there is a point. And when we fundraise an event and we fundraise $2,000 and 4,000 people show up and it does nothing but enrich the community of Biscayne Park and make Biscayne Park a beautiful, attractive place to live, then I think we do deserve money from the government because we are not doing these events for ourselves. We're doing them for Biscayne Park.
We only have 3,000 people in Biscayne Park.
Okay. Look,
There was a
look,
lot of
We
people
had
outside of
people
Biscayne Park.
Guys.
If I may just make one point, in each of our conversations, everybody on the commission was talking about allocating something for the Jazz Fest. What you saw in your department budget this past year was the village paid 1,200 in expenditures. It wasn't budgeting 1,200. I wasn't going to presume what the commission wanted, but each of you indicated that you all wanted to include money for the Jazz Fest. But the ranges were different. It went from 2,000 to 3,000. Now, I think maybe let's try to bring it in. It doesn't sound like there's consensus to fund everything, but if maybe you all can say, okay, it sounds from what our individual meetings that there's a consensus for the Jazz Fest. Let's start from there and see if we can come down to an allocation for that event. And then Mango Fest has been a tradition here in Biscayne Park for a long time. So there might be consensus to help with that event. At least there's 2 events there that we know. Last year, they started the Earth Hour here at the Log Cabin. Although we didn't show an expense, there was expenses from the village where we had staff present. But we also printed all the flyers and everything that was on there.
So are you
So
saying I would? for us
Those
to
are
cut the
three
budget?
events.
We're
Those are
cutting stuff
three.
in the budget.
Sorry, hold on, sir. Those are three events that the commission in this past year at least has said, we've supported these events. Maybe let's talk from that perspective. And then, you know, if I can offer a solution for the bike ride, for the Winterfest, there's already a parade that we do. We can maybe just add a section of those who want to ride a bike. So it's already happening during the Winterfest, right? And so it's not an additional day or anything different. It's not going to change anything. So those are little things that we can reincorporate that actually is a zero cost, but that can, like you said, help further some of those. But at least we know that the commission has three that you all have supported. Do you want to discuss their, let's start with Jazz Fest. I had from 2,000 to about 3,000. Where do you all feel comfortable?
First off, my question is, where are we getting this? I mean, we're trying to cut this budget and we're taking a lot of services out, that we're cutting the
We're
budget
not.
out. So now you're going to take the money from there to give to this.
Right now, Dan, all we're
Right
doing
now-
is going through and kind of creating a list of the things we would like to do. And then we're going to see the cost of associated of all of them. And then we're going to look at the total budget. Because right now we have 11,000 extra dollars. Let me respond to Mario. Mario's trying to move this along. Let me respond and try to keep this going. I like Mario's idea of funding a couple of things this year, and then next year we'll have better reports from you guys and we'll see what happened. Regarding the timing of things, I personally would like to see us pick, like, let's say to agree to fund three things for them to whatever degree we give them some money, but space them throughout the year. So we're helping make an impact throughout the year. If we do Earth Hour, Jazz Fest, and Mango Fest, those are all in the very same short period of time. I'd rather pick some things that are spaced out over the year. And Mango Fest, quite frankly, made money last year. And you did it like that and it made money. So next year, I bet you make $4,000. I don't think we need to fund a Mango Fest because they made $2,000 off of it. You know, you called, I'm sorry? Exactly. So I think that that's very definitely a revenue driver that can help fund some of your smaller things. I personally wouldn't want to, if I can't support everything, that's one I wouldn't want to support because you've shown us that can make money, you know? But I would very happily support Jazz Fest in a more significant, much more significant way. And maybe Earth Hour and the Youth Music Festival, because that's something that is a lively, fun, different thing. And it would be in November. You know, if it was November, early December time period, it's that festive time of year. I personally think I'd be happy to have that conversation, but not something as small as an art talk for $500. The holiday bike parade, I think you can morph it into what the police department already pulls together for us. An artist meet and greet for $500. I think you guys can do that on your own this year. But we could help with Earth Hour, and then Jazz Fest. Mango Fest is our revenue driver. You're on your own there. And the other ones are kind of a little loose around the edge anyway. So what would you guys think if we agreed to three things that we'd help you with, and then we could talk numbers? And they were, for example, the Jazz Fest, the Youth Music Festival, and Earth Hour.
Yeah, I think that's.
Would that make
that's
you
very
guys
fair.
happy? Would you
Absolutely.
guys, what do you guys think of those three events and the timing of those things?
I'm fine.
Yeah. Okay. So let's, yeah, now then it's the dollar amount. So can we just
As-
kind of agree in principle, we'll fund those three things. You guys will come back to us with more details after we tell you how much it is. You'll always come back and say, okay, here's how we're spending it and blah, blah, blah. Okay.
It's two, right? If they come.
We have other boards. Mario has all the information in front of us.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
more there.
This is how we're going to help fund all the
So-
fabulous things.
So for Jazz Fest, there was a range between $2,000 to $3,000. Is there a consensus within that range? You can obviously do more, but
How are we
Well,
gonna?
they're asking,
they're asking for 5, but in each of our conversations that we had, the range that you all were talking to me was
oh,
between
our
2,
range. Okay,
right,
I get
was
you.
between 2 to 3, right? And so at least from the commission, you can think of more if you want, you can even think of less if you want,
And
but
this is our starting point because we're putting a number down now. Mario comes back, puts it in the budget. We may have to, finagle a little bit more
I
anyway.
would like to see us start at 3,000.
I'll agree with that. I think that is the Jazz Fest, I think, has the potential, if you guys keep it going like you did, to be a true signature event that could put Biscayne Park on the map.
But it also has the potential to raise some money
Yep.
to cover for other things. and you had some vendors there and they should have paid you a fee to be there. And so I think that there's an opportunity there, but you have to have the money to overhead pay for the musicians and all that. So I would love to see us give.
Commissioner Gonzalez, 3, okay. Vice Mayor? Are you okay with the 3? And turn on
You
your
can say
mic.
no, Dan, it's okay.
Okay.
You say-
Mayor, it's 3.
Okay, but also, is that going to cover people that we have to hire?
Well, they have to cover that within their budget. Yeah, if we give them 3, they've got to figure.
No, I'm talking about the police, the rec.
No, they have
Yeah.
to, the board has to come back and present to us then how it's all going to happen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But next year, I can imagine that you're going to report back after Jazz Fest. We're going to see a report back from you guys of here's how we spent your $3,000 and this is how much of our own money we threw in. And here's the revenue that came from it. And next year at this time, we'll be having a very different conversation about these events because you'll have revenue attached to many of these things.
And you guys are very well organized.
Yes.
Put an amazing.
She's an
amount-
organized person, you can tell.
She really,
so the next,
They both are. We got like passion and organization. It's like,
the next item that's actually a lot closer to us right now would be the Youth Music Festival. They're requesting 3,000. So that obviously would be the ceiling. I don't know where the commissioner would like to start off. I would maybe just off the cuff idea is I know there's a Miami International Arts Academy. There's various schools, even
Greater
from
Miami
Dade
Youth
Country that
Symphony.
has music programs and all. So there might be cost savings because you have, at least in you have performer fees, 18 and under. Some of the schools will get their academies together and perform for free.
We actually, that's one of the things that's really important to us is having and it's a nominal fee. It's like maybe $20 a kid. But there is another youth music festival in Miami-Dade and they pay their participants regardless of their age. Everyone's 18 and under, but that's something we think is really important because it really gives those kids an opportunity to have a real performance. And when in the professional world, anytime you play in a festival, you do get paid for it. We had Broward College open up at the Jazz Festival and we didn't pay them very much, but they're students, but we still paid them something. But we're
you're
going to
mainly looking
invite,
for high school and middle school kids.
Yeah, we can't compete with Miami-Dade
Elementary.
though.
Yeah.
You know, they have a lot of money.
So the request is 3,000. Obviously, you know, they've listed, you know, staffing and all that in there. That's the request. So that's the ceiling. Does someone want to propose where you all would feel comfortable?
I would, I would say, okay, at 1,500. The other thing I would say, Mario, can they go to Sally Heyman to get her to help out with some of these events? Would she have some?
They can go to the commission, although I don't think Commissioner Hayman will be around.
Right, but she's
have to
kind of
talk to the new-
handpicked Mickey Steinberg.
They would have to talk to the new commissioner and
I
we
would.
can definitely help set that up.
sick them on the county.
Sick the-
Show up at
You
one of
know,
their meetings.
Come to the
especially
county.
for a youth thing. I mean.
And that's their sponsorship, right? That could be the
we
commissioner
might be able
sponsoring.
to get a commission sponsorship out of that.
And I can put you in connection as well. So
I'd be happy with 1,500 there for
there's,
that one.
there's 3. So Commissioner Gonzalez, 1,500. Okay. And Vice Mayor? And the last is Earth Hour. So the request is 1,200. So that's the cap. Is there someone that would like to propose either the 1,200 or something below?
Oh, they had a beautiful event here last year.
Yeah.
So what
They
was
had
the money spent on the
musicians.
band?
there was a American folk band that
Yeah,
played.
they were awesome.
There were refreshments. I
They're
believe they had a
excellent.
speaker.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be, and there was also, it was like a 2-part event. They did a workshop for kids where they got a ton of art supplies and they made these luminarias that they lit up with
Yep.
candles.
Yep.
So it was kind of a little bit of
Yeah.
stuff for everybody.
I would love for you guys to partner more with Alex.
We
on that
want to
particular
this
event.
year.
He gave a nice little speech last year and kind of made us all feel very passionate about it. But I'd love to have his board have a much more functional role in that because that's an educational, people that are showing up for that are the audience for him as well. So I'd love to have their
So is
board
there-
partner with.
It
us.
Is there a
ties
number?
into our desire as well
Yeah.
to work with other boards as
Yeah.
much as possible this year, because we all
Is
live
there a
here.
number that someone on the
500?
commission would like to propose?
Yeah, I think
Sorry?
500 I could live with very easily.
600.
600?
Okay, I could live with 600.
600. And then the only other thing I might suggest to you guys, because you have events in March and April on the calendar, if you could space them out as far apart as you could in March and April, so they're like 6, 7 weeks apart instead of 4, that would be great.
Well,
Okay,
and
so
the
we
other
have-
hand is we have the summer where we can't do anything because of the heat. So I understand why they're putting things in where they are. It's just unbearable.
So
June, July,
next,
August.
next on the list, thank you very much, Arts and
Thank you
Culture.
all so
Does
much
that help
for
you
your
guys?
consideration. Yes,
You happy?
yes,
Good, so
Next,
next year, we'll have a much more robust conversation with
yes.
you.
And we're learning. This is our first ever
Yeah, you did
budget
an
we've
awesome
ever
job.
done
Yeah,
like this. So
no
we're
worries.
definitely learning. So thank
next
you.
is the foundation. However, we have the chairman of the Sustainability and Resiliency Board. So I'd like to kind of skip down to that section so that we can talk. And there's some pretty big asks on there. Shoot for the moon and land among the
Right.
stars, I guess is the way to do it. And so they're taking through one of the things that he's recommend, or that the board is recommending. Yeah, we can definitely make it bigger.
That's better. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. So the first is the Sustainability and Resiliency Citizens Guide. It's more of a publication similar to what has been done. It would be a booklet, right? So you'd have to find a way to be able not only to create and design it, lay it out, all those things, but then it's also the printing costs. Well, no printing costs because it would be distributed electronically because we're trying to be resilient. So I apologize there, Alex. They're requesting 1,500 for it. Alex, do you want to give a little bit of an overview and how it would actually be developed or who develops it?
Yeah, I mean, it's there will be some printing because the idea is that obviously we're not going to distribute it to every household, but we would like to have it available to residents when they go into the village hall, especially new residents moving into the
welcome packet.
village. We give something like that to new residents anyway, so it would just kind of be an add-on to that package that we give to new residents. So there would be some printing, but it wouldn't be a lot. There'd be maybe some nominal fee for design. So Village of North Miami has a city of North Miami has something like this already, and we could piggyback off of some of the information they have because we share a lot with them. So the design fee, it's not going to be too much. I think within that budget we could probably do that, and then whatever printing. I know we already have most of these items here are going to go into other budget items that are already in the budget. So we have printing in the building department. So maybe that, maybe 1,000 of that is going into the building department line item for printing, getting added for this. I don't know if it's $1,000. I'm just throwing a number out there, but this is just like the fee that the estimate that was given to us by one of our fellow board members that was working on this to do this. So it's a pretty nominal fee. It's a nice thing to have. There'd be, of course, electronic versions of it, a PDF version of it that any homeowner would be able to download it and take a look at it as well. It's basically to just talk to people about how you can be more efficient, how you can be more, things in your lifestyle that you can do to be more resilient, energy efficiency, things like that. So renewable energy, all these kind of subjects to sort of help educate people in a very approachable way about sustainability and resilience in the village.
This could be this would be a PDF that you could have linked to a QR code. So as you needed to update it, you come across some good information you want to add, you could just update a living document that people could access.
Yeah, I mean, we
That'd
would
be
want to
great.
have a link on the website to be able to do
Absolutely.
it,
So
and
that's
the
easy to
ability
update,
to update it whenever we want to.
Now,
Yeah.
We do have a resident who is retired, who is an amazing graphic artist, who
Yeah.
has always volunteered her time and
That'd be
has
great.
done some wonderful things. Her name is Nancy Davis.
It'd be great.
And she
Yeah.
loves to do these projects, and she is totally into sustainability and resilience.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm speaking out of place to say that she would like to help both your boards with anything they need in the design thing.
That'd be awesome.
Because she has always volunteered her time. She did was it a newsletter for a while?
She did. She did that one.
And she's just so lovely, and she's just
So green.
That was her job.
Yeah.
She, I believe, worked
So
for Broward
is-
County.
Is there a dollar value that, well, I can also say there is some money within the administration budget that if the commission wishes to dedicate, we can do that instead of adding additional
I'd
revenue.
rather try to find places in the budget already, like the administration has, we have a promotional thing, commission has a promotional thing. If we, I don't know if you're allowed to kind of do that, but
Yeah.
I guess you could take the money anyway and put it there. But
Yeah.
can you, that's a question. Can you slot a request in for a board into like our budget? So you could be like the commission would be our promotional budget would pay for the resiliency board green pamphlet.
Yes.
I think what?
Is,
I'd rather see it, I'd be happy with 500. I'd like to see it come right out of our budget, but we have a promotional budget as well. How much is in our That's the point. That's the whole
so,
point.
okay, so
So maybe we can put an asterisk next to that, because maybe, Alex, we can find that in another part of the budget for you.
Yeah, that was the thought. I didn't think we would
Okay,
necessarily
let's
have
see
to
what
have it
else he has.
separate.
Okay,
So,
the-
okay, yeah, the second one.
the next item would be waiving the permit fees for solar and permeable driveways. This is something that the commission previously discussed with regards to cost. I think it was after the board made their formal recommendation.
Yeah, so we did talk about this before. It was brought up before. I know there were some concerns about how the actual amounts might not be impactful. So it's not only about the amount of money that is the permitting fee, which can be significant on a solar installation, but it's also about showing that the village is promoting these things within the village. I don't know what the overage looks like next year. I know that we
None.
budgeted
We're
again
short.
for 100,000
We're short.
We have a shortfall.
We're short 26,000.
We have a
for building
Building.
departments.
Building is short 26,000.
You're funding it out of the general fund.
Okay.
Well, no, our contractor was even more expensive. Mario found a cheaper contractor, so we went from a $42,000 hold
We're
to a
always in a-
$26,000 hold.
We always have to take money out of the general.
But we had $60,000
Yeah.
over in revenues
Yeah.
last year. So we're having under this year.
We were running a deficit in the building department.
Yeah.
We
Mo-
we had overages from various years. The revenue split was a 65-35 with our incumbent. It was supposed to go up to 75, but because we tabled it and we didn't bring it back, it didn't get increased. But we had several things that we did within the building that eroded any of the savings and stuff. Like we have the OpenGov software, we have the Bluebeam, obviously the increase in cost for our building clerk. And then we're now seeing the actual revenue split going to 75. So that's a 10% increase that the contractor is getting now. So all of that puts us this year in a deficit of 26,000.
So I guess the ask would be that if we do, because obviously we have, from what I understood on the budget, we're budgeting for $100,000 in permitting fees next year. So if we have any kind of overage there that is over that $26,000 shortfall that we have, I think my only ask would be to consider setting aside some of that funding in some way so that time we could do maybe just a resolution to put some of that money towards waiving those permitting fees for a certain period of time after that. So let's say halfway through the year, we're seeing that permitting fees are increased over, what they're supposed to be, which they were last year over $60,000. So if we see that, the only thing that I would ask is maybe to consider the commission can think about that next year when we see what those revenues are actually looking at, because guaranteed it's going to be over. I mean, we're over by $60,000 last year on permitting fees. It's going to be over again this year. I mean, a lot of people are doing a lot of things in their houses. So
Well, it's over because we have to budget very conservatively on the revenue side of that because it's not a guaranteed thing, so.
well, yeah, understood.
Do you
understood,
think
yeah.
that anybody would not do it or would do it because we're reducing the fees?
I don't
I
think
mean,
that's going to make a
people
difference.
who are going to
is-
do it are going to do it, whether,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that
So
whole
again,
thing.
it's not to make somebody. It's not going to be a make or break decision. It's more about just showing that but look, I understand
But they
the
can
money's not
afford it
there
and
for
we
it.
can't. So it's kind of like,
No, it's not about affording. It's more about just showing but look, the money's not there, so I understand that one we can forget about because I thought that there was going to be an overage, which is not there. So
No.
we can.
And
we
our
can
only
forget about that, yeah.
solution on flooding, you know what that is. It's called sewers.
Well, that's not the only
So-
solution, but it's.
And I
one
was
of them,
talking to
yeah.
somebody today, they said there's a lot of companies that'll come in and float a bond for us to do it. I said, no, 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 we want sewers that the county and the state and the federal government pay for.
Yeah, well,
Right?
that's
The
another
next-
conversation.
The next item is for grant research, writing and management. We currently do have an expenditure set aside for 10,000. We spend just below that. Anything above that, we would have to do a procurement for. So they're recommending to increase that from 10,000 to 30,000.
Yeah, so this is really important. And if you're gonna look at giving us any money for, well, not giving us, because the boards, by the way, don't have budgets. That was something that was stated earlier, which is not the case. Boards don't have budgets. Boards make requests for budget items that go into the village budget, which is spent on the village, not on the board. So in this case, we have the opportunity for millions and millions of billions of dollars in grant money is out there right now, and we don't have somebody who's out there looking for it. Now, I was able to find one of these grants at the last minute, and thankfully with Mario's help, we were able to get it. $80,000 with a minimum amount of time spent. There is so much more money out there, but a grant writer is one thing, which of course we need. But we also need somebody who can go out and look for this grant money. So those are two different types of people that can do that. And so what we're requesting is to increase that fund, not just for grant writing, but for grant research and possibly for actually managing the grant. So we have this grant that we got right now. We're going to have the kind of a steering committee in conjunction with the board, but somebody who needs to kind of oversee. If you get a bigger grant, somebody needs to be overseeing how this grant is managed. It's not something that we have people in-house that can do that right now. We're already, have less time to do anything to begin with. So what we're asking for here, just kind of based off of an estimation that we did there on how many hours per week, coming up with that request of $30,000. So that would be basically an extra $20,000 from what we have. The payback is going to be exponentially higher than the money that we're spending on. So, and by the way, that's not money that we're spending unless we actually use it. We're not just paying somebody an extra $20,000.
That's right.
It's something that we're going to, on a contractual basis, pay on an hourly rate, whatever, however we do it, and we will get money back.
Well,
Think about it.
okay,
We got
but
$80,000 from almost
did-
zero effort.
What did we get
you don't necessarily
80,000
get the
for?
grant that you apply for if we're just being completely fair.
Of course,
Yeah.
no. So you get
I'm
a
with you 100%,
percentage
but
of,
you don't
yeah,
get the money you apply for every
you're
time.
not guaranteed ever,
No.
but
So you're asking us to increase what we're budgeting for a grant writer altogether village-wide.
correct.
So there's more opportunity for us to chase down more money. And you're saying there's a lot of it that would be earmarked for sustainability resilience projects.
Right, but within that, so we're using a grant writer right now, but within that, possibly looking at contracting somebody else or somebody within, I don't know if it's Calvin Jordan, I don't know, whoever we're using for
No,
grant
the
writing.
grant writer, they do research, writing and management. It just depends on how much we're
So
willing to
perfect.
pay.
So if we already have somebody that we're lined up with, we add money to that for them to actually research, find grants. Let's say we apply for 20 grants and we get 2 of them, they're going to be much more than whatever it is that we're spending them to get on there. I don't know if Mario, are there finder's fees for those? How does that work with,
No, they're
Okay.
not legally, they're not allowed to.
yeah, I didn't think so. So there you go. I mean, that is, it's a payback that you will
Okay.
have.
Maybe if we got rid of our lobbyist, we'd have $20,000 more to put to that
Gets us
grant writing,
money
which
to-
A lot
I
more.
tend to
The
somewhat agree
lobbyist
with
did
that.
get us
I tend to
350
somewhat agree
compared
with
to
that.
85,
Yeah.
so
He got us 350,000.
Okay.
$1 million.
David was able to get us 350,000 compared to 85,000, so.
That's, yeah, no, I still think he's
Would
worth
have
it.
gotten it anyway.
Okay, what else is on this list?
No. There have been many
So
years. we've
solar
been-
panels, this actually connects back to the previous one, which has
Yeah.
to do with grant writers, because of course, we're putting money out here that we're talking about $200,000, $100,000. Of course, realistically speaking, the village will never have the budget to do something like this. But
Yeah.
but here's the thing.
Easy.
Yeah, we spend about $5,000 a year in electricity just for this building and the village hall. That's not counting the rec center or the public works building. That's another $400 a month over there in the rec center.
Alex, if we put, I don't know anything about solar, you and Judy are the experts here on that. If we put solar panels on, for argument's sake, the rec center,
Right.
can you send that electricity to the Public Works Building, Log Cabin, Village Hall? I mean, or does it?
You
do
don't,
the
you don't
solar
send the
panels-
electricity. It cycles back to,
So you're still using
FPL,
FPL electricity?
but no, you use what you use on your solar when the sun is out.
Right.
The rest of it goes back to the grid, but it gets credited to you.
No, I understand that part.
Use that.
But do the panels have to be on top of the building they're being used for? That's my question.
I think we probably could work out something with FPNL that we could get credit for our other structures.
That's what I'm asking.
But
is
even
like-
if we don't, they will credit and pay you back
No, I
for what you
understand that part
don't
of it.
use.
I'm just wondering if solar panels have to be put on
So-
every one of our 4 buildings, or if you could do like a solar farm over there that was our solar.
It's
for
gotta
the
be
And
building.
it would
within a
feed
certain
all our other
distance.
buildings is what they.
I believe it's
call
got to
it.
be
Your
within
house.
a certain distance. And you lose, I think, power the further away you are. But if I can just interject here, and I think, I really like this project that Alex was talking about, especially for Village Hall, or even the rec center. I think 2 of our commissioners were talking about solar projects and wanted to start a conversation tonight about it without actually talking numbers, because here's my recommendation. Let's hold this off for a year. And I'm saying that, this conversation, because I just received a phone call yesterday on my way home of a company that essentially floats all the infrastructure and the cost, and for a monthly payment, almost like a utility bill, you pay. Well, but it goes beyond just solar panels. It goes to charging stations. It goes to changing out your fleet to electric vehicles and other things like that. My initial response was, it sounds too good to be true. Okay. Because they were proposing it doesn't add debt to your books, and it doesn't, it's not a bond, but we can finance and we can give you a loan. And, if that's the route you want to go, but, we have this other model. And I go, whoa, look, doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to meet with them. They're going to be in town in September. So it's not going to be able to do it as part of this budget. It might be something I bring to the commission if it's worthwhile, and I don't know that it is. So that's why I'm saying, let's pause on it, because if it does become worthwhile, after all of my investigation, meeting with Paul, making sure that all the finances and everything works, then it's something that we might address mid-year to enter into. And we can all of a sudden really, instead of just crawling into something, really just jump head in. If numbers make sense. I mean, Public Works, we're not asking for a new vehicle in their budget, but those vehicles are almost 20 years old and they're constantly breaking down. If we can get something for them to work, I don't know that this company does anything with police vehicles, but we can at least have charging station for those vehicles at Public Works. We can start a charging station at the rec center. We can start solars for the solar idea I really love, because when we go through a storm and we're out of power, we don't have anything to bring in. We've tried to get a generator and from a grant from the state and stuff like that. It's been put in the budget and it's been vetoed by the governor and so forth. So if all of a sudden this is a new model that we can take advantage of, and it makes sense, then let's do that.
What they offered for a private citizen was like a 20% interest rate.
It's not a company that offers for citizens. It's just for government.
And listen to him.
And
Yeah.
I'd love to have Alex.
Once I
Talk to each other.
Yeah.
Once
to do
I
that.
vet it, no, you can't be in the same room if it's gonna come to you without advertising a meeting. Once I'm able to vet what it is and what it means, then that's something that I would bring to
I think it sounds.
to the board and to the commission. But,
Could
I'm,
we float like $10,000 towards it? And that would at least give us something to maybe get estimates, get something. I hate to,
Is there a
see us
baby
put-
step that we can take?
I hate to do nothing.
Well, so that's a great point that Mario brought up. So actually, if you see on that proposal there, I talked about the FPL Solar Vantage program, which is that, but only for solar panels, and possibly they do it for electric vehicle chargers too, but when I talked to them about that, they said that we weren't eligible for it. So that's a great idea. I think that's awesome. And that's really realistically the way it's going to happen unless we secure a grant, which can fund all of those things as well, including a lot of the other things that Mario mentioned, police vehicles and actually village vehicles, definitely.
Works and the equipment they use.
Yeah.
Mario, would you be okay if Alex were in that meeting?
I'd love to be there.
Not presently. I first need to, I need to vet the whole thing before we
What was
start
the name of the
going into those
company?
next- I don't even remember.
So Mario, to Judy's question, is there a piece of it that we could fund in case that didn't happen, that would at least get the train out of the station?
That's up to you all.
But I mean, a
you know.
dollar amount we can come up with, but is it, what would it pay for is my question.
Yeah, so there's the board is the board is recommending several options. I guess part of it would be either waiving of the fees, installation of a charging station, in starting an electric charging station that anybody can use, whether it's here or, well, not here. Well, yeah, it would be either here or at the log cabin or at the rec
I
center.
have a question about that. When you
Yeah.
put a charging station in, we're not putting a gas pump in for me to fill up my gas guzzler. When a charging station goes in, are people swiping a credit card to pay for the, yeah?
Yeah, so
I've never-
you
I've never
want to,
actually seen the
It
charging.
depends.
I have, and over in Aventura, and there's nothing.
Well, Aventura at the Apple place, I know.
In a commercial use, you would pay.
You would
In a
pay.
commercial use, not private, obviously, if it's your.
The only difficult with a charging station, if it's not for village vehicles, is we're offering for our residents to charge their electric vehicle at either the rec center or somewhere else. But this is a residential only community. So if they bought a Tesla or an electric vehicle, they've already outfitted their home with the capability to do that. So instead of them doing at home, they're getting the electricity for free because we're paying for that.
They charge.
yeah, but
right?
that's
So-
not the idea. Just
not free, though.
that's not the idea though. So the idea is to have a charging station there that is number one, sort of planning for the future, but also giving people who work there the opportunity to have an electric car if they want to have one. So this wouldn't necessarily be open to every single person to use, and it wouldn't necessarily be free either. You can set it up so that it's free for some people and not free for everybody. And so if somebody from the village wants to come in here and charge, they probably would have to pay for it. Somebody who works for the village wouldn't have to pay for it. So you can set
People
it
who
up in
come
that
to the
way.
rec center to play sports and they're low on a charge, they can plug in their car while their kids are playing in the softball
And
tournament.
you would want to make that they have to pay for that. And
Pay for- yeah,
you can
that's my
actually
point.
get
It's
revenue
like
from
it
that.
shouldn't
Yeah.
be free.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be free. It wouldn't be free.
I say, okay, I think Judy said it earlier, you, or maybe you did, Alex, about doing something that's visible and as part of the messaging of who we are as a community. I think that's an awesome opportunity for that, having a visible charging station that people have to pay for. It's like, it's not free, but we're making it available to you.
But
If
then we
that's-
might be putting out something that's never going to get used. So my thought is at
No, but we
least
have, don't we
if
have,
we put stuff
No.
into solar, it's going to get used.
I'm sorry I didn't wait a year on my hybrid because I would have bought an electric because they're starting.
Well, they're doing plug-in hybrids, so you can run on gas or on a electric charge for X.
Just to address, I think what the question is. So yeah, I mean, to be able to put in solar, I don't think that for anything less than 50,000, we're really going to be able to do something meaningful. I mean, what we could do, if we think about a way to do it, is that we could do a ground mounted system over here in this field, and those systems can be repeated. So we can do a smaller ground mounted system
Add on.
that can add on over time, and we just,
We flood here.
but they're ground mount, they're actually raised off the ground. So you can actually have them raised off the ground to account for the flooding. So we could do a smaller installation and then add on over time. I don't know how cost effective it is to do that, but if we did want to do something and it would at least cover part of the village and maybe we wire it, so
And
it's only,
personally, I really like your idea of the parking canopy.
Yeah.
Not only does it help protect the cars, but we don't have to be drilling into the roof or anything like that in the building. So
Yeah.
Eventually getting to that parking canopy idea, I think really makes sense for what we have.
You need to go talk to this company first.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
but it,
What can we put in the budget in some way
Some,
that would do something?
or that would at least be there if something comes up that we could do that we don't have to fight over it.
A start.
could we refinance one, because we do have people that have electric cars in Biscayne Park. Couldn't we finance one of the one of the,
I mean, what to have one
Associates.
plug, the average cost for that is $12,000. I would say that if we're going to invest, I think Judy brought up a good point that not everybody's necessarily going to use that. So if we're going to be investing in something, I think it'd be better to invest towards something that's solar related versus
Okay.
just doing something electric vehicle. Again, these things, we can get grants for any of them.
What if we
so-
killed two birds with one stone and we did something here that would power up the lights that we need to put in out here? Is that an opportunity?
We're still gonna.
The cost on the lights here on the log cabin is the actual infrastructure, not
I
the-
understand
not
that,
the area.
but right, but I'm just thinking to fire them up.
Yeah, you could do
Sure.
solar powered lights. I mean, it's that you have to see with Calvert Giordano what the difference in cost would be and what the shading looks like with the trees there and things like that.
I
But
want to see what Mario comes up with this company.
right,
And if there was a
but-
way to do something small, but I don't feel like we're coming up with anything.
But if we could at least come up with a small amount and put it there as a
Like
floater,
a placeholder,
yeah,
that it's a little something that
$1,000
we're.
bucks?
So may I recommend something? It's not on the board's list, but it's kind of related. Why don't we put whatever amount you all want, minimum 5,000, let's say up to 10. And there is a bunch of electrical work that would have to be like at the rec center or even here to be able to accept the solar powers and all that. We can put that so that we can get an electrician, a master electrician to come out, start organizing and start doing whatever work so that the next phase can be, okay, now that all the electrical is ready, we can actually go after, maybe it's this company, maybe it's next year or something else, or with FPL, we can actually put solar panels at the rec center. I really like the rec center because in case of an emergency, we can still hopefully operate the freezers, the refrigerator, the AC, and give the community a benefit and, you know, that kind of stuff. So we're almost breaking that project up. And the first thing we need to do is deal on the electricity. At least we can fund that.
$5,000 be enough for that?
You know, I don't know if it's enough, but at least it's something that we can definitely look at and go through.
But and if nothing
gonna
else,
go
maybe it
towards-
can go into grant writing if we need
it's-
to write grants, but at least put something towards the development.
if it's gonna go what you're saying at the rec center, I would definitely agree with, and I would even say the 10,000 because that is our police operation.
What would you label that so you would have flexibility there in terms of what you do with it? You could use it for a grant writer if you.
Well,
choose for
when
that.
Alex
Or-
gets us a grant.
We would just put it under the Parks Department
ready,
and we
you
would
know,
put
we'll
Put it
five.
under what?
electricity.
Like under
Right.
capital something or other?
Yeah, like building under the building line item.
The note that this is kind of what our intent is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do
I'd
that.
I'd be cool with 10 if it's at the rec center for that.
Okay, so.
That'll get us for the solar.
And
panels.
Vice Mayor said 10, Commissioner Kennedy said 10. Judy's, Commissioner Hammelberg is 10, sorry. Mayor is 10. The mayor said 10 and Commissioner Gonzalez, he's okay with that as well. Okay.
So Mario, let's say just for playing devil's advocate, you want to get the rec center ready to accept the electricity and it's only $5,000. You can't say, okay, we'll take that 5,000 and go do the same thing at the log cabin or village hall. It's in a different department. You couldn't move it.
No,
You couldn't even come and ask us to move it?
it would have to be a budget amendment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could.
It's
so
not
we're
gonna
both
only
fine.
be
As long, yeah,
$5,000.
the commission can almost do
So we're
almost
tied,
anything
we're
you all
not
want.
completely tied to that building. Okay, that's cool.
There's a
used for
lot of
solar panel.
solar, a lot of electric. that
We would see what the cost, let's, I think we have a number. Let's find out what that next step is, what we can do with it. And then we'll go back to the board and we'll come back to the commission and we'll kind of evolve that conversation.
10,000, if we, as Commissioner Kennedy says, we don't use the 5,000, that 5,000 could be put towards the solar panels.
That isn't gonna
So-
get any solar panels.
So what did we decide for the board's ideas? 10,000?
So-
10,000.
10,000 at the rec center. We'll look for the guide within the administration that we're probably is already budget.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And if,
Waiving of fees. we
and
can
if
do.
Mario's thing happens and those people say we need a down payment. of
Right now,
like-
it just sounds like pie in the sky, but
No,
sometimes
that's
they're
something.
actually cooking up there. So you never know.
Did we come up
Right.
with a figure for the, if we're gonna, the grant writer, or what did we say there? Nothing?
We did not explore, right now we have 10,000 budgeted within the administration budget. I don't know if
Get
the
to
commission,
Administration budget, why don't we bring it up then? Because it's right in there, part of the budget. We'll look at it.
Okay.
But I don't think it's a bad idea to talk about it, certainly.
Okay.
They did go get us a chunk of money.
so the next, I think, easy one, maybe I'm wrong.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alex. Parks and Parkway, several months ago had made the following recommendations. One is to install irrigation in the butterfly gardens, which are here outside of the log cabin on right next to the log cabin on the other side as well of 113th, no, 14th. Yeah, 7th Ave. So to install irrigation there. The other is a tree matching grant. We have money within the Public Works budget for landscaping. That is typically the money that is used for matching. I was speaking to our grant writers because I do want to go after it, especially to be able to find to evolve our plantings to replace the Australian pines. So I'm in line with that, and I think there already is a budget. And then the park benches, that's already been included here based on the commission at a commission meeting indicating that you all were supporting it at that moment. So out of the three, two of them are already in the budget. So the third one is irrigation outside here of the log cabin. Under Public Works for the landscaping, that's the funds that are using. Right, because they require a matching. So we would be putting that into it. They just double that up. Yeah. So we already have some funds dedicated to two of the three. The only one is the irrigation. Is that a project that the commission feels is worthy that we should put money towards it? Yeah.
To fund the irrigation or to fund the
Well, it would be both.
clearing out
right?
of?
It would be for the purchase and the installation of the irrigation
Well, if we're
of the
putting in
water.
plants, we should be watering them.
What is the cost? I'm sorry.
They didn't put a cost in.
So what are we just gonna guess?
w- We would have to request a meter. There might already be a meter out there.
I heard there already is at least a well or there was a pump at some point.
So we can take a look. It might be a very minimal cost.
Yeah,
and
well.
we might not even have to. So let me do this. Let's not discuss
Supposedly,
that
yeah.
because it
There's a
might just
pump
be
system. There was a
some.
pump system here at one point.
Here there was. Oh, and it was, they were going to determine whether we could get it that far. That's what it
Yes,
was.
that's correct.
So let me do that because even then, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a very expensive project,
don't
even
think
if we have to hire a company to do it, because it's such a short run. But we might be able to do all that internally anyways, where we just need to be able to purchase the
right.
stuff. So
Let's put some money on that
That's-
one.
Just find out what the cost.
I don't necessarily know we need a budget for that right now, because if we purchase supplies and stuff, we already have a supply budget
Our
within
guys can
Public
do that.
Works. We have guys that can do that.
Install the pump and
Raleigh.
I need to see the full extent of it, but I'm pretty confident, especially just the irrigation part. I don't know if we need to buy a pump, and if they can do that, that's where I'll find, but we already have some money within
electrical.
supplies and stuff. Yeah. We already have within the supply in Public Works. So then the last from the board is the foundation. They have been working very hard to reimagine or revamp the rec center. They have a breakdown of all the costs that they're planning to spend. What they're requesting from the village out of a $15,000 project is $5,000 from the village to help finish off. And here you have listed, and it was emailed to everyone as well. They emailed directly. You have a list of all the individual costs of where all the money is going to here. So they're requesting 5,000.
And has ISA approved of everything that they're putting in?
For the most part, it's new. I don't see anything here that I would oppose. It's paint, it's new furniture, book tables, bins. It's not going to, from what I see, it's not going to eliminate anything space-wise.
But it's adding a couple of TVs and stuff.
Yeah, but that doesn't take away from the space that we would need for the aftercare or anything like that. Remember the original proposal when she first brought it to the commission was to take up like half of one of the rooms and whatnot. And then I think it looks like they've abandoned that. And it's just actual new furniture, new paint, new infrastructure and like TVs and stuff like that.
3 televisions.
All module and mobile, so they can break it down, set it up and all
The
that.
Walls, where are you gonna have 3 separate areas for 3 televisions? I don't know. Anyways, I think we don't need to step on East's toes and make sure he approves of it, but I'm okay with putting 5,000 into it.
You know, I would like to fund this as well, but here's my feeling about the foundation. The foundation has the ability to raise money, and I would like to see them function as a fundraising arm for this village in a much more significant way where
It's raising 10 or 15.
I understand, but it's money they've had. They didn't raise it for this purpose. But, and I'm not suggesting they do it for this thing, for this project specifically, but they have the ability to go out and go to local businesses and say, we're reimagining our children's area, and we're looking for corporate sponsors, and go to the local businesses that may or may not be related to the subject matter that's being worked on. When we talk about the rec center and we talk about putting, like say we said, wanted to put dog watering stations in around the rec center walkway. I'm making an example. You go to local vets and pet stores and say, naming rights, sponsor this stuff. My point is that they're allowed to go do that. We're not, other boards are not, but they are. And I'd love to see them getting sponsorship money and going after money for projects like this. And I love this project and other projects for us as well, because they have the ability to do that. And you can go ask businesses for money and they'll cough it up, you know?
And I really haven't seen,
Creepy Critter sponsoring the kids' play
I
area.
haven't seen, yeah, but I mean, I agree with you 100%, but I haven't seen the foundation really go out and raise money. I don't mind giving $5,000 if they're raising 10, 15, 20,000, but they're not, they don't.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I see the event that they have and they happy to raise $500. Wow.
$100, yeah. So Mario, what would be the process for us to have that conversation with them? Like, is it as simple as we give them a project and say, hey, can you go chase down $25,000 for dog watering stations and let them go do it?
They have a new
Yeah,
new
we can
director.
have
Yeah.
So,
we can
yeah.
have a discussion item on any commission agenda. I would recommend the commission agenda simply because it's already, but you can even call a special meeting if you all want to work with the board and just have that dialogue back and forth with them.
I would really, really appreciate that, because I see them having like a really important function for us for much more significant projects. Again, not related to this, love this, I say yes, but to use them in a greater capacity for when we say, we're going to redo and one of the things is $25,000 for this, we need the foundation's help, bring them in, guys, here's what we need, brainstorm, go get the money and come back.
I agree with you, Commissioner. I mean, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because they do have a new director and hopefully they can do
But
it more.
I also
I
think
just don't
we
see this
should put
foundation
some
raising that money.
We should be putting some skin in the game.
Exactly.
We shouldn't be expecting them to outfit the village. We should be putting some skin in the game.
Oh, I'm agreeing. I'm just saying, separate from that, I'd like to see the foundation function, since the foundation is
But
what
if
we're
they're
talking about.
putting for
Okay, so-
10,000,
Yep.
why is it hard for us to put in half of that?
I didn't say it was, Judy. I said yes.
So
Paragraph break. I want to
see,
talk to the foundation.
so the recommendation from Commissioner Hammelberg, and I think the consensus from
Yeah.
Commissioner Gonzalez was to add 5,000.
At 5,000.
Yep.
Commissioner Kennedy sounds like he's okay with it.
For this
Vice Mayor
project, yes. for this project.
And Mayor, are you yay or nay? I mean, we have consensus, but support.
I think we should too. And Mario, just to be clear, we're going to budget 5,000, but before we're going to ask them to come and show us a complete breakdown and really like show it to us, because to Judy's point, we may look at it and go, we don't want 3 TVs in there.
Yeah, I mean,
We're going to have this is a budgeting.
we can definitely require that.
As long as we get
Have them
another
come in.
crack.
And I don't think they
all
have
this
any
before
problem.
it's spent.
And again, in there, they are showing all the breakdown of costs, but we can definitely have that conversation. Okay, so wonderful. Thank you all so much. That concludes our board portion of it. So it's 9 o'clock. There's a couple things that we can do. Okay. We can start and go until you guys are done. We can schedule another workshop for next Thursday, the 25th, if everyone's available, and we'll just consider on the commissioner request.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So we also, we did the board request, but then commissioners made a request. Might we, before, I understand maybe we're not going to, well, we're not doing all this tonight. Might we next go through tonight, each individual commissioner's request that they want to have added? So now we have all the requests in our head. So when we have our
Sure.
next meeting, then we can go back and review all of that, because then we really have to get into the budget and figure out where it's going to come and talk about possible millage changes and stuff like that.
So what I will do,
My requests were basically supporting the boards. There wasn't much more besides that I asked for.
Who else had, I mean, do you guys want to have? that
let me
conversation tonight
share
Before we adjourn?
I can share my screen. So
Yeah.
We're already past the $11,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we may as well just, let's just keep on going. We're shooting.
So Commissioner Gonzalez wanted to reduce in the commission budget, the education and training, reduce it to total 2,000 from where it's at right now. In administration, reduce it to 2,000, which after getting the quote, that's where we were able to be. In the parks, reduce the part-time salary from 50 to 40,000. He wanted to add a line item from jazz, which you all did, and others didn't highlight that one. And then reduce the operating supplies to 1,500. Commissioner Hammelberg wanted to make put the millage rate or have the millage rate at 9.6, which increases revenues 29,422. The village manager 6%, and have the discussion for a capital project for the village for solar between 40 to 80,000. And I think we already kind of discussed that. So I would say that is complete as well, because we did that. Commissioner, I'm going to go to Commissioner Samaria first, because
What about me?
you're a little bit longer.
A lot.
So Commissioner Samaria wanted to increase the travel and per diem for the commission budget, so that we can have 2,000 dedicated to going to Tallahassee for any of our funding requests. And the other two items that were requested were already agreed upon. So it's on the commission. And then from
You don't have to go through line by line on all of these things, because some of them were just little here, there, and just kind of land on some of the big ones.
So some of the big ones for Commissioner Kennedy was wanted to show the solid waste franchise fee staying at 82 within our revenue. Wanted to increase the revenue, showing the revenue to match the year-to-date for the recreation program and facility rentals, similar with lien searches, traffics and fines.
I just think we're a little, maybe a
Building.
little more conservative than we need to be on some of the revenue stuff. There's such a gap, but I understand where Mario goes.
Yeah, we normally do it at a
I understand.
50% of
I understand.
where it's at.
I understand.
From the commission, Commissioner Kennedy wanted to reduce the compensation to $1 instead of how it is, and then that would affect multiple.
Can't budget like that.
Then it would reduce the FICA as well. But he is asking to increase the promotional activities for either polos or something to recognize at the community events that we have for each of the commissioners. And
Can I say
then,
something there?
sure.
When we have a community event, I feel like it's a missed opportunity for the commission to be engaging with the community. I see people there that, like, they're engaging in the music or the kids things, but it's like it's a missed opportunity for the village to reach out and engage with people. And I'd love us to have
I think it's
a
something
tent,
that's
a
been
table, a
done in the
banner.
past.
Yeah, a banner, something to identify the village commission, and we decide who's going to be there, or we take turns, or, I mean. Yes.
Okay.
Like that.
So some of the bigger line items, and I'll just go into the large dollar signs. the request is to cancel the communication budget. So reducing that budget from the 20,000 down to 17 because their retainer goes through December. Some other smaller cuts throughout administration. In the capital projects is adding the traffic study, 50,000 to do the data collection and qualitative study, as well as put 50,000 towards potentially demoing the B house, as we affectionately call it. And then the others within parks and police are more smaller line items to go through. In building, again, in the revenue is to match or get closer to matching the revenue that we see year to date. And then some small cuts, which I think were actually included within the staff recommendations, except for the education and training to reduce that by 500.
So let me, if I may, just talk about two of those things really quickly, and I promise I'll make it quick. The demolition of 826 Northeast 121st Street. So we started that process. We had a conversation. They're working their way through boards. We'll see what happens there. Quite frankly, I'm not super confident that they're going to get themselves to a place with the village that they're going to be able to do what it is they say they want to do, given
Is there an
all-
update since the attorneys?
They did come to the code board meeting last night, and the board gave them an extension so that they can work with planning. They had appeared in front of planning with plans. Planning board said, no, that property has more than 50% damage. So you're gonna have to meet the new code. So they got to redo all their plans and everything, but that's.
and
where
it's
we
a
are.
non-compliant property. That's the other
So
problem.
they can't turn it into, well, what it was a fourplex. They
Right.
Can't keep it as a fourplex.
No.
They would have to turn it into a single family
They
home.
allowed it to deteriorate to such the point that it now has to get torn down. That's what planning and zoning is saying. So the owner allowed it to get to that point, and now they can't rebuild it to what it is. And
The variant.
they could come to us for a variance. But I don't think, can we give a variance for the zoning? Can we?
You can do
We
it.
could allow them to we could allow anybody who comes to us to put a fourplex up on their property if we approved it? Ugh,
I'll
Scary thought.
confirm with legal, but
I didn't think we could overstep that. I
We
thought that
can.
was like a
Yep.
comp
no,
plan.
it's a variance.
Okay,
It's not conforming, period. The
Right.
lot size is not.
A lot size.
that's right.
Even if,
That's right.
if they wanted to put a house, it's non-conforming.
Well, but we just gave a variance to someone for an undersized property elsewhere.
It couldn't become-
But each
They can get a-
variance is on
what
its
I'm
own
saying
merit.
is, can you, my question is, can they get a variance to put up a fourplex
You don't
on
have to
its?
agree to it. I mean, that's really.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. So at any rate, but point of putting this in the budget was to have money in the budget. Valerie had done a breakdown for us on the costs of, everything. Legal fees, requesting from the county, the inspections and the demolition of. So it was an estimate for $50,000 all in. We can get through the process and tear it down and get there. And then we would place a lien on the property. So that budget item would be offset by a lien. Lien's not money, but it is offset by a lien. It has the potential.
They've got
But it
about-
also puts a message, I think it puts by having it in the budget, it kind of sends a message like, we're really serious about this and we're prepared to do what we need to do. The other option would be that if we got to that point and we agreed, okay, we're going to take the action, Mario could come to us and ask us to take that money out of the general fund. So I'm saying we could either budget it, or Mario, you could come and ask us for that, right? Mario?
We would have to go in front of the county board. We would have to go in front of.
No.
Yeah, but we,
No, we wouldn't own the
It
property.
wouldn't be our property.
No,
We
no,
would
we're just
demo
tear
it.
it down. They still own it. They're paying the taxes on it.
yeah, but they're not paying all their fines.
Yeah,
Their fines
exactly.
are way up.
Yeah, exactly. So could you come to us, if this were not a budgeted item, could you come to us and say, when we decide to move forward, if and when, could you come to us and say, guys, I need $50,000 out of the general fund to do what you want me to do?
Yeah, I mean, we've
Okay.
done it this year with the water pump and other areas. So
Just
it's
to be
always
clear.
an option to be able to do that. Yes,
I just put it, look, it was a request I made because we had the conversation. We stated it was kind of passionate up here on the day as that night about, we're not playing games with you kind of thing. And I thought if we're gonna, keep this time not back down and not forget to do it, we need to be prepared to pay for it. So it should it be, the question is, and we're not going to answer it right now, but should it be a budgeted thing now? Or should it be something that we agree Mario can come ask us for the money out of the general fund?
The problem, Mac, is that we don't have a timeline here.
No, I know. Well,
So what are we talking about? Are we-
well, we do have a timeline. We have somewhat of a timeline.
$50,000 for
Hold
nothing.
on, what is the timeline?
They're going through P and Z. When they get refused by, if they get refused by P and Z, then they go back to code compliance and they're gonna lay a fine on them. And if P and Z says you can't do that, then it's gonna come back to us and now it's gonna be, okay, commission, what do you want to do?
But they can't do that, right? And then.
Who can't do what?
They can request a variance, which takes time, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't see a real timeline here.
So you're saying don't budget it, and if it comes to it in this fiscal year, take it out of the general fund. Okay, look, that's why I put it in my request, because I wanted this conversation to take place. So at least we would agree, either budget it, or are we all comfortable that he can come back to us and we'll take the money out of our savings and do it? Okay, as long as it's very, I don't want this to drift away again.
Yeah.
It's drifted away how many times, Judy, over the years?
I know that.
Yeah.
So we
So-
have,
Since
I just don't want it,
96
I
looking
know,
at it.
I just don't want it to drift away, and I want to, as long as we all agree that we would do that, then I'm cool taking it out. The other thing I put in here is a traffic study. So if we want to do anything, the first step is we need a current traffic study. The one I know we had this conversation.
Do we
One
need
we had is from 2014. Mario brought the topic back to us. We haven't gotten to it at a meeting yet. It was on the agenda again the other night. But if we want to consider making changes, the first thing we need is data, and we don't have it.
do we need a traffic study to put in some speed bumps?
I don't understand, quite frankly, the extent of these temporary things, but if we are intent on, look, that was an arbitrary decision someone made. We'll get a couple of these things and we'll stick them where we think people, where they went? Where people complained the most. That's where they went. And then you know what happened? Then one of them came out because the same people that complained said, oh my God, it makes so much noise. So now I'll take them out. So then we took them out. So that's not, okay, I understand we're trying to help where we think we need to help, but that's not the same as having a study, looking at statistics, figuring out what really the best thing to be done in each place, what needs to be done from the menu of possibilities. All I'm saying is if we're going to take this seriously, we need to, take we're trying to reset a bone with a Band-Aid. So
I
we need an
understand that,
X-ray.
But I was asking the question, can we put in some speed bumps without getting a traffic?
I
study?
think we can, and I think those are two separate things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to answer, whatever we do, it's going to take a multitude of things. It's not just going to be one solution. It's not going to be one speed bump here, one speed bump.
Right.
It's going to be a lot of different things that are going to make this thing be realistic, right? But I understand. So here's my question. The last time there was a study, obviously none of us were here.
Judy was. Well, none of us were up here.
What did they do with that study?
The community
much.
came and talked about it, and
Like everything else in this community. right?
they wanted some of the streets
Until
to
now.
go one way, and everybody fought it. Nobody wanted to be on a one-way street because it's so hard to get to your home. And so essentially, nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
So
You know who you
I
can
think we
talk
got
to,
a
Art,
couple of-
talk to Bob Anderson. He was a commissioner then. And here's the
Got a
interest,
couple
here's
of
the
stop
craziest thing.
signs in there.
Did we? The craziest thing was when I found out about this from Bob, I went to the village and said, I need to see a copy of this. We didn't even have a copy of it. Bob had the only
how
copy.
important it was.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, it's not how important it was. It's how seriously it was taken.
But
But if we
also
want-
gone
but if we
through
wanna-
So many administrations
know.
that God knows where records are in this village.
I know, well, not anymore because Mario digitized everything. So you can find anything now.
Here's my opinion on that.
Well, not
Trying
anything.
I've heard from, a few folks that, obviously traffic and speeding is a big concern, right? I haven't heard from a lot of people. I've just heard from a handful of people. $50,000 for a study is a significant amount of money for us.
it's not a full study.
Okay, and it's not even, it's not even a. full-
Right. It's the
Initial data
start for the
collection.
Data,
Yeah.
right. Correct.
For me
It's
to
the
make-
Data collection.
For me to make this decision, honestly, I would like to hear a lot more from the residents, because my concern is which Judy just eloquently stated, is that, you know, we obviously have the best of intentions. We all do. We all want traffic mitigation and whatnot. But the minute that you start telling people, you know, this is what could potentially happen, then they're like, well, not on my block,
I
not
don't
on
want
my
a
street.
stop sign in
I
front
mean,
of
there's
my
people,
house.
there's people that if you put a speed bump on their street, they will have a coroner. They'll be here knocking on the door tomorrow. So I get it and I understand it, but I would want to see more participation from the community and hear feedback from them.
It's a little challenging because they're gonna say, well, what are you gonna do? And you don't know what you're gonna do until you get a study.
Well, we had some data from the last time that we did this study, right? And we had some, I'm assuming, I don't know because I haven't seen the study, but I'm assuming it had some recommendations, correct?
No, I don't
No
think,
recommendations?
I don't think it had recommendations. Mario did it. Mario and I both looked at it. It has all the data, but I don't think it was intended to make recommendations. I might be wrong about that.
We had
minor
some
upstreets.
workshops
Yeah.
where people talked about the options of one-way streets. At the time, we couldn't close anything off or even add stop signs or speed bumps because the county was
But if
not
I-
allowing it.
If I may, that level of conversation you have during the study or towards the end of the study, because the study itself, right? And if the study itself, there's different components to it, right? And if you look at the memo from the agenda, there's the first phase that you can do is a data collection, and that can range between $30,000 to $60,000.
That's a traffic
of all.
study. That shows movement of.
All
cars.
that is collecting, putting out the ropes essentially in different parts of the village, getting that information, and then starting to analyze that data. So you're not going to get any recommendation out of that. You're going to get what the count is, and it's going to start creating where the boundary or what the universe is going to look like for Biscayne Park. Then you get into what's called a traffic calming study. And the traffic calming study has a lot of different components. It has a safety analysis, it has a livability analysis, it has a traffic analysis, and then they also make traffic improvement plan or the recommendations. That is where you start, in that traffic study is where you start getting the community feedback. And they start saying, okay, you know, based on the amount of traffic that you have and what is forecasted over the next X amount of years, you know, you could close this street, or if you put a speed bump here or a stop sign there. Well, no, I don't really like that idea. They start giving those recommendations based on the information. That and remember when I think it was either April or May when the topic first came up, or June, it might have been June. I spoke with some in the private sector from my contacts when I worked at the transportation agency. When the commission asked me to dive deeper, and I've listed it here on the memo, I went and I spoke with the Transportation Planning Authority for Miami-Dade County, and I go, hey, what is all this scope? Because this is what I've heard from the private sector. They go, well, yeah, it kind of depends, and we kind of narrowed it down, and they were able to help explain some of these things. That is an additional cost. And then apart from just doing that aspect and talking with the residents and going through and talking what those recommendations are, you got to have certain, the outreach, and then B, the agency coordination. So some of this stuff, like right now, the traffic data can be singular. If it's a year, 2 years, not going to be that much of a difference. The county has done something because of Griffin. I don't know what the inside of the streets are, but 15 years is too much. It's not relevant anymore, right? So you can use it as a historical benchmark, but you can't use it to make recommendations on what traffic calming you can do now.
So it could be an interesting thing. We would certainly compare it. It's 14, 50, it'd be 15 years old by then, and see sort of the change. Now, you just said something that was interesting. You said something about projecting. So in that study, do they also look at what's happening around us? For example, we have 3 very large developments in North Miami that have just barely breaking ground, one of them, but they're massive, you know, and they're right outside of our border. Do they look at that and say, based on how many residences are there and how many cars that will be and where people move around here, you can expect this much more from it?
I can't answer that, Commissioner. I really don't know.
I don't know.
So-
There's a lot of different things. They have a formula that they do. And so if I had to guess, my educated guess would be, they would say, okay, there's X amount of traffic within Biscayne Park right now. If you plug in that into this formula over the next 3 years, it should increase by X, what, and so that's what they're kind of accounting for.
Mario,
Say, here's where you stand now. Here's where you can probably expect to be, just the way generally things work without taking into account some specific things maybe, and maybe that would be.
I don't know if that formula already takes into account a different number
Those
that the
things.
county might have that we might not.
the study that was done in 2014, it was just this phase. It was just phase one. It was just the $50,000 phase.
No, I think there were some, I think it was a little bit more than just the data collection, and there may have been a couple more recommendations, but the recommendations weren't anything significant of nature.
Okay.
And,
so-
and I don't know that the village even moved forward with any of them.
Obviously they did. They got
Judy, you said they did some workshops?
2 stop signs.
Yeah, I think we added a few stop signs.
Yeah.
But-
Listen, wait, let me finish. One more question. So that's phase one, the 50,000, right? Once the data is collected, then we go into phase two, right? What are we talking about there financially in the phase two process?
So the phase two, you would need to do essentially 3 things all at once, because you can't do one without the other. One would be the traffic calming study. The range that I've been able to find is between 125 to 150. The agency coordination would cost between 20 to 40,000, and the public outreach would be between 10 to 50. It all depends on how much on the outreach. Why such a bigger scale? Because if some of the recommendations may require to have public outreach with Miami Shores, North Miami, unincorporated. So it's not just us. Depending on what those recommendations are, you would need to get buy-in from other agencies and other communities as well.
Are these the
So-
kind of things that grants might be available for?
Maybe, yeah, that would be.
We can definitely look. I don't
We just
have an
don't know.
exact
Okay.
number.
It
Fair enough.
just seems
Because-
like why we have so many irons in the fire. It just seems to me like we've got
Well, this is a-
solar we're looking
this is
at.
a
we've
This
big
is,
got-
one.
this is really. this is a really-
Far-reaching.
This is a really important topic to the community that I know for a fact because I've heard it a lot. But here's my question. Here's my concern. You know, this is a significant amount of money that we're talking about. I mean,
First phase.
no, just the
all
first
of it.
phase is, the first phase is really, okay, $50,000 is significant, but it's not. So my concern is that, we're gonna spend this 50,000, let's just say, in theory, we're gonna spend $50,000
In fiscal 23.
in fiscal 23. Then we're gonna get hit with an additional 200 some $1,000 for the other phases, because if you do phase one and you don't do the other phases, what's the point of getting? It's wonderful that I know how many cars are flying through here, but that doesn't do nothing for me. We're gonna need to do the other phases. So now we're talking about an additional $200,000. Listen, I would love to do this. I honestly would love to do this if I said, oh, we have the money for this. This is awesome because we can, because this is a great idea. It really is. But I just financially, I just don't see it. I don't.
Well, what I'm suggesting is we take a bite out of it in
but
23.
A bite is going to require another bite.
I understand that. So, but that's another year. Then we take another bite another year. Look, the alternative is we don't do anything and we just sit here and watch it happen around us.
We did decrease our speed limit, and I'm not sure if it was from we were a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit before.
We're the lowest that we can go.
Huh?
We're the lowest we can go right now. The county won't approve anything lower than where we're at.
Go any lower. I would like to pursue to see if there was any kind of grants for this. I know the BP Foundation won't get this to $50,000. But no, on a serious note, I would love to see if there was any grants available that we could potentially get to fund this study, because it's a lot of money for this little.
Can any
village.
of it come out of CITT funding?
Oh.
Mario?
Travel related.
Unfortunately, my answer is going to be today. The answer is going to be no. Could it be funded by CITT? I believe so. We would ask them, and because it's roadway and all that, I don't think that they would be opposed to it. But all of our money is tied up into the storm drain,
But for
like
next,
everything. Next
Even
year's
for
money.
next year's tied up. He has like a 5-year rolling plan, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
again, if we have all this other stuff going on, how do we spend $250,000 on, and is there something we can do without that initial outlay? Are there speed bumps we can?
I
put
feel like those things, and I agree with you
So-
kind of in theory,
we can
but
do this to save 150,000 that we could do immediately?
I,
and for what, I'd like it to be a little more scientific and know that we're solving the problem where the problem is in the right way and it's done right.
I think one
Like
thing,
roundabout, as you can see, roundabouts could be like a.
if I may offer a compromise. With CITT funds, we're allocating about 15,000 for storm drain cleaning and for the most part, being completely honest, and I've said it before and I'll say it in the community, I'll say it again here. The new ones aren't going to need cleaning next year. Not even the one that we did last year, because it's built right. There's a capacity and we'll hit that, but I don't think we need a vacuum truck and try to make it spick and span. The other ones that are existing, it's a hole in the ground and they can't really clean it.
Full of mud and rocks.
Yeah, they can't really clean it. And if you put the vacuum truck into that hole, you're sucking up dirt and rocks, which can, if you do too much, you're going to start not only collapsing, but you can create a sinkhole because you don't know what's under that as well. That's 15,000 that we have. I can move the grant, our grant vendor to look so that if we need matching funds, we have 15,000 that we can already say we have and we can use right now. Of course, with CITT approval, at least that's one step.
You think they would approve that?
I think they will because it has to do with
Roads.
the roadway, absolutely, and improving the roadway, right? And you got to be able to do the design and the study to ultimately do the construction.
And all of that.
Exactly. So I think CITT would approve it. We could use that as a matching if we can find the grant. I don't want to say that finding a grant is impossible, that they're not out there, because it goes through DOT, or maybe we try to get something through the state appropriations and we already say, look, we've already allocated money,
Chevron and see what they can do.
or any of those type of things. Exactly. And so I think the compromise, because I'm hearing that there's a need, but we're kind of scared of jumping into it, right? Is if we can find the grant that we can apply for, then, okay, don't use it for the storm drain cleaning. Don't use the 15 this year for the storm drain cleaning. Use it as a matching grant if we get it. If not, see what we can do it. But if not, use it as a match so that we can go in and at least we can start, whether maybe it's 50, maybe we get a full 300, who knows what it'll be, but maybe that's the compromise.
Okay, look, the point I brought this, the point of me bringing this topic to this group was to get this train out of the station somehow, right? So if this is how the train gets out of the station, I just don't want a year to go by, that another year has gone by, that Biscayne Park has not taken any action
Again,
on an extremely serious issue.
aren't
So
there
so I can
things
live with
we
a
can do?
compromise like that, as long as I am confident that we're going to do something that is moving this forward in substantive way, that we can say to our residents, we are doing something about this major problem that we have very
Yeah.
limited control
other-
over
We
right now.
put some speed bumps in or some more stop signs in, or do something that isn't going to cost us 50,000 so that we're doing something on some of our areas.
I'd be fine with that, but I would highly suggest that before you put any of that stuff in, that you get resident buy-in in those areas.
Oh,
and people don't Travel
absolutely.
up and down the streets, because I'll
Absolutely.
tell you, we put them in and then we took them back out.
So
And we took them in and people are still complaining that it's not doing
Yeah,
enough.
but to your point, Mac, that might be one of the recommendations eventually.
Yeah.
And then what are you gonna do? Then you're gonna do the same thing?
But then it's, you know what, then it's at least based on, we did a study and this is what it is. And we have too many cars that go down this road and 40% of them are speeding or whatever it is. It's backed up with something and we have to address this. And this is how you address that problem. At least it's backed up. So I think we're all kind of agreeing on this in theory. And I just want to know that we're doing something.
Okay.
This is like the King Solomon speech where, divide the baby in half because it really is
So-
a difficult thing because honestly, I mean, if we spend $50,000 on a study, I would be extremely upset if we didn't continue it.
Well, that's where there has to be a commitment.
This would be a complete waste of money for this little village. $50,000 is a lot of money. And if we just do a study for $50,000 and we're not committed to continuing that, then I'm not.
Well, that's the will of the commission, and the commission changes every 2 years. But you can't, the other thing is you sit back and you kind of like not do anything.
So just to kind of recap, a couple things. One, total request that we have consensus for board request is 21,000. We currently have about 11,000 surplus within our 9.5 budget, which means we need to find $10,000 to meet the board. From commissioner requests, we've actually agreed on quite a bunch because there was some overlap on a lot of things. We've actually agreed on quite a lot already, and you'll see those highlighted in green. So we're down to the last bit. It is 9:30, and I think some of these are going to carry on a conversation that we're not going to do in 30 minutes. What I'd like to do is, send this all to you so that you can see where all the requests are. I'll post it on the website for the residents as well. If we can agree September 25th,
I'm sorry, September 20.
August, I'm sorry, yes, August 25th. And I'm not going to give a new presentation. It's just to go on the remaining items so that come September 6th, the week after, you all have in front of you a first reading with a budget where there's already somewhat of a consensus on what that looks like. And we're not spending 2 hours just talking about budget changes.
I have nothing on my calendar, but why do I feel like August 25th is a date of something?
There's a Miami-Dade League of Cities thing at 10:30 in the morning with Frederica Wilson. That's the only.
No idea what it is.
For that day.
Oh,
I don't have
I know what
anything
it is.
either.
Never mind. Never mind.
So is the 25th okay for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll come back.
It says, well, you can also do it during Zoom if you want. Okay.
So are we agreed to August 25th at 6 o'clock? Is that right?
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
No, and I think Chief wants to say one thing.
Oh God, he's gonna ask for money. He heard us talk about millage. He wants 2 more cars and 3 officers.
So I'll be extremely quick because yeah, I know. Apparently,
Nicole took it all.
yeah.
All Nicole's fault.
So this budget, I sat with the manager and we were extremely conservative. We asked for the officer in the car. So you understand the officers are filling gaps for us to be able to have the staff that we need. And the cars for somebody to be able to, the officer will drive it. So they're pure needs, not wants. I spoke to an additional conversation I had with the managers, it was really quick, was that in the future, our cars are, and I have a list here, going back all the way to 207 cars and 206s. Some of the fleets, so we talked about this company. So in the future, that's something we have to look at. The cars I have here that you see there is the reserves come in. I mean, we've done a lot of work and this is why we're at. I know someone, I think David Raymond was talking about traffic and all that. I mean, the commissioner has followed up the amount of tickets on 6th Avenue all over it's a large amount. We won the awards, first in the state, second in the state. And then obviously, we have the capital crime here is non-existent. We have some minor property crimes, mostly people, gifting, leaving stuff open and so on. So I just, when it comes to the budget time, I didn't get to hear what else is from the commissioners, but I want you to know every year we try to return money. Every year we return money and we are as conservative as we can. But there's some things that we need to provide the public safety services that are truly, truly needed here. So then I'm gonna end it with that. I'll give you a list of the cars that we have in the fleet, so you have an idea there. It's an aging fleet. I think, Mr. Manager, we spent like how much money in maintenance this year?
So far, we are spending, apologize, I think we're at the 66,000 mark.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going. So that's why I'm just throwing it, for the commission to be aware that this is we're band-aiding. We've been band-aiding. I've been putting tape on the car, but in the future,
63.
we gotta kind of bring that elderly fleet. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. And that concludes today's workshop. We'll meet again on Thursday, August 25th at 6 p.m. for a much shorter version of it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
That's up to Jill. Yeah, Dr. Ritz Zayak, there you go. Multiple commissioners. I had a feeling we wouldn't be able to finish tonight because of the board on the discussions. Yes, I'm leaving them there. But even we finished the board, and we actually were almost done on the commission. We did a really great job. I just can't. No, once they drop off the kids,